早晨，歡迎各位透過網上直播參加消費者委員會第552期選擇月刊嘅新聞發佈會。今日為我哋主持發佈會嘅有消委會研究及試驗小組主席譚鳳儀教授同埋總幹事黃鳳嫻女士。今日嘅發佈會會首先以廣東話進行，然後係一段英文嘅摘要，跟住到提問環節。Good morning, thank you for joining the Consumer Council's online press conference for Choice Magazine issue number 552. Hosting today's press conference are Professor Nora Tam, Chairman of the Research and Testing Committee of the Consumer Council, and Chief Executive Ms. Gilly Wong of the Consumer Council. Today's press conference will first be conducted in Cantonese, then followed by an English synopsis, and then a Q&A session. 咁而家唔阻大家啦，我將時間交俾譚教授。Professor Tam, please.
好，早晨，大家好，再次歡迎各位傳媒朋友喺網上出席今日消費者委員會嘅旗艦刊物選擇月刊最新一期552期今日出版嘅發佈會。我同消委會總幹事喺今期選擇月刊裏邊咧，就選取咗5篇同大家生活息息相關嘅文章，想同大家分享㗎。咁首先我想問下大家，每日一早起嚟會做啲咩呢？晚黑瞓覺之前又會做啲咩呢？我諗好多人嘅答案都會話刷牙啦。咁因為咧，每日早晚刷牙可以保持牙齒嘅健康、口腔嘅清潔，避免咗好多牙周病啊，或者蛀牙啊、牙結石啊、敏感啊等等呢個口腔問題。咁我哋都好希望我哋嘅細蚊仔咧，自幼就養成咗清潔牙齒同埋口腔嘅習慣。咁大家都會問，刷牙嘅時候需要咩啊？好多人都話牙膏啦，因為牙膏咧除咗個基本潔淨功能之外咧，唔少亦都標榜有其他功能，譬如話抗敏感啦、美白啦、防牙石啦。除咗成人牙膏之外，市面上亦都可以買到兒童或者嬰幼兒用嘅牙膏。但係咪所有牙膏都係有保護牙齒、清潔呢個功能呢？會唔會有啲佢酸鹼值唔啱呢？會太酸呢？對口腔唔好呢？會唔會亦都有啲重金屬或者其他致敏物質對牙齒同埋口腔健康帶嚟負面嘅影響？咁今期選擇月刊呢，就可以俾大家一啲非常有用嘅資料啦。咁希望大家選購嘅時候咧，可以選購適合嘅牙膏產品。為咗方便大家明白我哋嘅結果咧，我哋就將佢整理成一段短片，咁大家分享啦。唔該，去片。
刷，想棚牙好似我咁健康亮白，除咗日夜刷牙咪偷懶之外咧，仲要揀啱牙膏。選擇月刊最新測試30款成人同埋兒童牙膏，發現佢哋嘅成分啊，隨時影響你牙齒嘅健康。揀牙膏要留意佢哋嘅酸鹼值，如果酸鹼值太低，再加埋本身刷牙呢一個動作嘅話咧，有機會令牙齒嘅琺瑯質溶解，分分鐘令牙齒嘅表面弱化，越刷棚牙會越受損。
留意按內地標準，牙膏嘅酸鹼值應該喺5.5至到10.5呢一個範圍裏邊。如果口腔嘅酸鹼值係低於5.5嘅偏酸環境之下，牙齒嘅琺瑯質有機會被溶解。測試中呢3款兒童牙膏樣本嘅酸鹼都低過5.5，未能符合內地要求。如果選用偏酸性嘅牙膏，再加埋牙刷摩擦牙齒，有機會弱化牙齒嘅表面，甚至造成磨損。
唔少牙膏都標榜含有 fluoride 氟化物，呢種物質咧可以鞏固牙齒，抑制牙菌膜滋生，對小朋友牙齒成長尤其重要啊！6個月至6歲嘅小朋友正處於牙齒形成嘅階段，定期攝入氟化物可以令到牙齒更加堅固，防止蛀牙。不過測試發現有2款聲稱含氟嘅兒童牙膏樣本嘅氟含量低於內地標準要求。如果長期使用氟含量低於標準嘅牙膏，有機會唔能夠為兒童提供足夠嘅口腔保護。今次測試發現有超過80%嘅樣本咧，就係檢出有微量嘅重金屬砷同埋鉛。雖然佢哋嘅檢出量都冇超標，但係都唔可以掉以輕心啊！因為重金屬可以積聚喺人體裏邊，如果長期攝取無機砷，有機會導致外周血管或者係心血管疾病以及高血壓。而慢性接觸鉛可以影響兒童嘅神經發育同智力發展，亦會導致成人血壓上升，應該盡量減少攝取。而測試中有7款牙膏樣本檢出砷，以及26款檢出鉛。值得關注嘅係，今次測試超過90%嘅兒童牙膏樣本都檢出微量重金屬，呢幾款嘅樣本更加標示為3歲以下嬰幼兒都可以使用。建議家長喺小朋友刷牙時候，從旁指導，盡量減少幼兒因為誤服而攝入重金屬嘅機會。測試中有超過50%嘅樣本分別檢出呢2款香料致敏物質， 部分更超出歐盟上限，小心。
認住丁香油酚同檸檬烯呢兩種嘅過敏香料，有海外報告指，少部分人會有接觸性皮炎或者係口腔潰爛等嘅嚴重反應。今次唔單止超過一半嘅樣本檢出呢一種嘅成分，部分樣本更加係冇按要求喺包裝上標示呢一個成分。曾經有敏感反應嘅人士，最好避免選用含有呢兩種過敏成分或者有呢類字眼嘅牙膏，以降低致敏嘅風險。
等我再俾多啲選擇牙膏同埋日常口腔護理嘅小貼士大家啦。每日至少刷牙2次，但係過度頻密咁刷牙咧，亦都會磨損呢個琺瑯質啦，同埋刺激牙齦嘅，容易令牙齒感染同埋發炎。部分美白牙膏含有微粒，加上硬嘅刷毛咧，又或者太大力咁刷嘅話咧，可能會損害琺瑯質，甚至乎造成敏感牙齒㗎。平時用牙線又或者係牙縫刷清潔牙齦同埋牙齒咧，有助減少牙石嘅形成。想知更多關於選用牙膏嘅 tips， 一齊睇第552期選擇月刊啦！
好，依家由我補充有關牙膏我哋測試嘅資料內容啦，同埋其他4篇嘅文章。咁正如我正話講啦，牙膏係兒童同埋成人每日都會使用嘅，嚟到保持牙齒同口腔清潔嘅必需品。咁除咗基本潔淨嘅功能之外咧，唔少牙膏標榜有其他嘅功效，譬如話可以抗敏感啦、美白啦、防牙石等。咁消費者委員會測試咗市面30款普通同埋兒童牙膏樣本，發現13款嘅兒童牙膏樣本之中有3款嘅酸鹼值係太低，未能符合內地嘅標準，有機會損害琺瑯質。2款聲稱含有氟嘅兒童牙膏嘅氟含量太低，或者未能夠加強鞏固牙齒。另外有16款嘅樣本檢出過敏香料成分，其中4款嘅檢出量超出咗歐盟法規需標示嘅上限，但係就冇按法規喺個成分表上面列出。另外9成嘅樣本都檢出微量重金屬砷及或者鉛，雖然含量冇超出咗相關標準，但係我哋要注意長期攝入呢啲咁嘅物質對健康可能帶嚟風險嘅。消委會強調，牙膏係每日使用嘅口腔清潔用品，商戶有責任確保產品符合護齒功能，清楚列明佢嘅成分，同埋避免含致敏物質或者重金屬，以保障消費者嘅健康。咁兒童只有養成清潔牙齒同埋口腔嘅習慣對牙齒喺形成階段嘅健康生長甚為重要。但係如果牙膏嘅成分唔符合標準要求，即使係有良好嘅刷牙習慣，亦都可能對牙齒同埋口腔健康帶嚟負面嘅影響。消費者選購牙膏嘅時候需注意產品嘅酸鹼值，長期接觸過酸，即係 pH 值太低，或者過鹼，即係 pH 太高嘅口腔清潔產品，或者對牙齒同埋口腔健康構成不良嘅影響。測試之中13款兒童牙膏樣本嘅酸鹼值介乎3.8至8.2，其中3款嘅酸鹼值偏低，未能符合內地嘅標準，要求牙膏嘅酸鹼值唔應該低於5.5或者高於10.5。消委會提醒，當口腔中嘅酸鹼值降低至5.5以下嘅時候牙齒嘅琺瑯質有機會會被溶解。刷牙嘅時候，如果使用過酸嘅牙膏，再加上牙刷摩擦牙齒，或者會令到牙齒表面被弱化，甚至造成磨損。因此建議消費者應該避免選用酸性牙膏。消委會已經將相關嘅測試結果交俾海關跟進。至於17款普通牙膏樣本嘅酸鹼值介乎6.4至9.5，全部都符合內地標準嘅要求。另外，唔少牙膏都標榜含有氟化物，嚟到鞏固牙齒同埋加強抗酸物質嘅侵害，並且有助抑制牙菌膜嘅滋長。幼兒如果定期攝入適量嘅氟化物有助增強琺瑯質，令牙齒更加堅固，更能夠抵禦蛀牙。測試中分別有6款兒童牙膏樣本同埋6款成人牙膏樣本，喺包裝上標示含有氟化物或者佢嘅氟嘅含量。6款含氟兒童牙膏樣本嘅氟含量當中2款嘅氟含量未能符合內地嘅標準嘅要求，或者未能夠為兒童嘅牙齒提供足夠保護。17款普通牙膏樣本裏邊有9款驗出氟化物，整體嘅氟含量較兒童牙膏高嘅，全部符合內地標準。但係當中3款冇喺包裝上標明含有氟化物或者佢嘅氟含量。另外，唔少口腔清潔用品都會添加 丁香油酚作為調味劑，而且檸檬烯咧亦都會加入去，咁就係令到咧有一種生果味嘅牙膏嘅一種常見嘅香料。但係少部分人士會對呢兩種過敏香料咧產生嚴重嘅過敏反應。有海外報告指出，最嚴重反應咧可以引起接觸性嘅皮炎，甚至口腔潰爛。所以歐盟咧化妝品嘅法規要求所有沖洗類嘅化妝品之中，如果所含嘅過敏香料嘅濃度高於0.01嘅百分點，就需要喺成分表度咧標示嘅。咁我哋測試中有16款牙膏樣本咧，包括12款普通牙膏同埋4款兒童牙膏樣本，分別檢出過敏香料丁香油酚及或者檸檬烯。6款樣本檢出嘅丁香油酚有量咧由0.002%至0.013%，其中1款兒童牙膏樣本更檢出咧0.013個百分比嘅丁香油酚，超出咗歐盟化妝品法規需標示該致敏香料嘅上限，但係就未有按照規定咧喺包裝上嘅成分表標示相關成分。另外有12款嘅樣本檢出檸檬烯，當中2款嘅兒童樣本牙膏樣本裏邊咧，同埋3款普通牙膏樣本嘅檢出量超咗歐盟法規需要標示嘅上限。其中3款樣本嘅成分表咧都冇標示含有檸檬烯，包括售價最高嘅1款普通牙膏樣本。消委會咧敦促有關商戶按規定列明產品所含嘅致敏成分，並且建議咧曾經有過敏反應嘅消費者咧喺選擇口腔清潔用品嘅時候咧仔細閱讀成分表。咁今次測試咧亦都按照內地嘅標準測試咗牙膏嘅重金屬砷同埋鉛嘅含量，結果咧喺7款樣本裏邊咧檢出砷，檢出量咧係由每公斤嘅0.088至0.29毫克，低於內地規範上限每公斤2毫克。另外咧有26款樣本檢出鉛，檢出量咧係由每公斤0.052至0.80毫克，亦都係低於咧內地標準每公斤咧10毫克嘅上限。咁消費者需要注意咧，雖然全部樣本檢出嘅重金屬含量都符合內地嘅標準，但係由於重金屬咧可以積聚喺人類身體裏邊，對健康影響好大嘅。譬如長期攝入無機砷，或者有機會導致咧外周血管疾病、心血管疾病或者高血壓。至於鉛咧，一旦攝入體內咧會積聚喺裏邊嘅。咁慢性接觸鉛咧可以影響兒童嘅智力發展，亦都會影響成人血壓嘅收縮壓。所以咧，盡量減少攝入任何含鉛嘅物質。消委會關注今次13款兒童牙膏樣本裏邊咧，其中12款檢出微量重金屬，部分樣本更標示咧可以適合3歲或者以下嬰幼兒使用。咁我哋知道啦，嬰幼兒喺啷口嘅時候咧，咁佢個過程裏邊咧，未必好似大人咁咧識得將牙膏同埋泡沫咧係完全吐咗出嚟嘅，有機會咧吞咗落肚裏邊。所以建議家長咧喺旁指導，盡量減少嬰幼兒咧因為唔聽牙膏而攝入重金屬嘅機會。咁大家咧就好擔心啦。咁我哋究竟咧要諗下有啲咩問題咧？關於呢個牙膏，咁我哋咧就可以達到咧要保護牙齒，我哋要識揀。咁我哋發覺咧係12款嘅普通牙膏同埋4款兒童牙膏咧，都檢出咗呢個過敏香料嘅。咁個風險係咩咧？有機會產生嚴重嘅過敏反應。而4款嘅普通牙膏、3款兒童牙膏咧，都檢出咗微量嘅重金屬砷。咁砷有咩風險咧？如果長期攝入無機砷咧，有機會導致高血壓啦、外周血管啦或者心血管疾病嘅。咁第一個最我哋關注嘅咧就係酸鹼值啦，不符標準。咁有3款兒童牙膏咧就係過酸嘅。咁過酸嘅風險係咩咧？就會令到牙齒嘅琺瑯質咧係溶解，所以咧唔可以鞏固牙齒之外咧，仲可以損耗牙齒嘅。咁另外咧，我哋亦都檢出咗咧係有氟化物啦，有9款，咁個含量咧就好似唔係好達標。咁有2款咧嘅含量咧就係唔符合內地標準或者未能提供足夠嘅口腔保護，尤其是6款嘅兒童牙膏裏邊。但係9款成人牙膏咧都好好嘅，個氟含量都夠嘅。咁除咗正話講嘅無機砷之外咧，其實仲要注意另外一個就重金屬啦，就係鉛啦。咁咧鉛咧喺身體裏邊咧會積聚㗎。咁如果積聚之後咧，會影響兒童嘅神經系統同埋智力嘅發展啦，可以導致成人嘅血壓上升，即係好高血壓嘅。咁除咗呢個重金屬啊、呢啲微量元素啊，或者呢啲咁嘅酸鹼值之外咧，其實今次我哋嘅測試咧都測試到咧佢有冇微生物。咁我哋咧喺2款兒童牙膏樣本裏邊咧就檢出咗有微生物嘅，但係佢個菌落總數咧都低於內地標準嘅指標限制。 所以咧都唔係好擔心。全部樣本咧都冇點出歐盟法規嘅禁用物質，情況都理想。但係30款樣本之中咧，只有23款喺產品嘅瓶身或者包裝上面咧用中文嘅英文咧詳細標示成分資料。消費者咧或者未必能完全掌握嘅資料情況之下咧買咗呢啲咁嘅牙膏。咁2款樣本咧就冇標示任何有效期嘅資訊，標籤資料咧唔理想。咁咧要牙齒健康，除咗要選擇合適嘅牙膏之外咧，仲要適當咁樣去進行口腔日常嘅護理工作。消費者咧可以參考我哋俾你一啲 tips 嘅，其中第一個咧，每日咧係至少刷牙2次啦。但係留意刷牙如果太過頻密咧，亦都會損害我哋嘅琺瑯質同埋咧刺激牙齦嘅，咁令到牙齒咧容易受到感染同埋發炎嘅。第二咧，選用軟毛牙刷可以減低咗刷牙時過度用力而損害咗琺瑯質，刺激牙齦嘅風險。咁最後咧就係兒童喺生出第1隻牙齒之後咧，家長應該每日早上起床同埋晚上瞓覺之前咧，同佢哋刷牙。3歲以下嘅兒童咧，家長可以輕輕喺牙刷上面咧塗抹少量普通含氟嘅成人牙膏。3至6歲嘅兒童咧，應可以使用碗斗般大小嘅牙膏刷牙就可以㗎啦。咁呢個就關於牙膏嘅。咁跟住落嚟呢個咧就係大家都好中意嘅，就係紫菜啦。咁究竟紫菜安唔安全，營養價值幾多咧？咁我哋先有一個短片咧，俾大家係欣賞下我哋今次嘅資料內容。首先去片啦。
哇！紫菜脆卜卜，食到嘴喐喐。
紫菜蛋花粥，補腎又滿足。
就咁食好味。
撈粥食
就咁食好味
唔係
啲
撈粥仲正啊！你哋咪嘈住，不如等我話你知紫菜冷知識啦。即食紫菜係由海藻經烘乾、烤製加工而成，有好多種唔同食法，例如零食紫菜，用嚟整飯團或者用嚟拌粥飯麵都可以。消委會最近測試咗市面上27款即食紫菜，發現所有樣本嘅碘含量豐富，含高蛋白質同高纖。淨係聽過食紫菜可以預防大頸泡，乜原來紫菜仲有其他功效㗎？係啊，碘係人體必須嘅礦物質，適量食用可以保持人體新陳代謝，幫助嬰兒腦神經同埋身體發育，仲可以維持孕婦生產機能㗎。另外，佢嘅蛋白質同膳食纖維嘅比例高，蛋白質可以促進人體生長發育同修補身體組織，而膳食纖維有助保持腸道健康、穩定血糖、預防心臟病。
哇！紫菜咁有益，買多幾箱翻嚟，餐餐都食先。
千祈唔好啊！攝入過量嘅碘質會有機會導致甲狀腺腫大，擾亂甲狀腺嘅正常功能。以長者為例，中國營養學會建議嘅碘可耐受最高攝入量係每日600微克。呢一款紫菜食2片就會高過限量。另外，因為紫菜本身含有鹽，即使冇額外添加鹽，佢嘅鈉含量都可以高㗎。經常食用高鈉食品會增加患上高血壓嘅風險。測試嘅27個紫菜樣本全部都有金屬污染物，而且全部都檢出㗎。長期攝入會損害腎功能，不過正常咁食紫菜，健康風險唔大。
咁點先可以食得健康啊？
第一，喺選購即食紫菜時，注意鈉、脂肪同糖嘅成分。建議選擇非油炸、冇添加鹽、油或者調味料較少嘅即食紫菜。第二，保持均衡同埋多樣化飲食，避免因過量食用而攝入過量碘。咁大家記住食乜嘢都係要
適可而止啊嘛！
好，咁正係睇咗短片啦，大家都知道咧，紫菜含有豐富嘅礦物質，更係碘嘅來源，咁常被視為健康食品。但係經烘焙而成嘅紫菜咧，輕巧方便啦，唔單止可以便於攜帶嘅零食，亦都常見於亞洲嘅菜式之中，譬如用嚟製造壽司啦、飯團啦、韓式飯卷啦，或者作為白粥白飯嘅配料等等。消費者委員會咧測試咗市面上27款不同種類嘅即食紫菜樣本， 結果顯示咧，就全部樣本嘅碘含量豐富，適量進食咧有助保持新陳代謝。但係如果過量咧，即係有機會咧就影響甲狀腺功能。當中有4款嘅零食紫菜咧個樣本標示可以俾36個月以下嘅嬰幼兒食用，其中1款樣本咧進食1份手術筒嘅碘含量咧已經超過1至3歲幼兒每日推薦攝入量嘅90%。家長為小童準備配有紫菜嘅膳食嘅時候咧，需要格外注意。同時測試都分別咧有70%嘅樣本同埋40%嘅樣本咧，都分別達到食物安全中心嘅高鈉同埋高脂嘅食物水平。由於零食紫菜香脆可口，容易咧令人一次食用多份，增加咗攝入過量鈉同埋脂肪嘅風險，對嬰幼兒同埋兒童咧係嘅影響尤高嘅。今次嘅測試27款即食紫菜樣本裏邊咧，包括咗18款零食紫菜、8款壽司或者飯團用嘅紫菜，同埋1款紫菜絲。咁每包嘅售價咧係介乎10蚊至到62蚊不等。測試中咧有4款嘅零食紫菜樣本標示可以俾36個月以下嘅嬰幼兒食用啦，因此屬於嬰幼兒食品。咁測試項目咧包括咗營養素同埋6種重金屬嘅污染物含量，並且咧同時檢視產品包裝上嘅營養標籤、營養元素嘅標籤同埋測試嘅結果有冇差距。碘係維持甲狀腺正常功能、保持人體新陳代謝必須嘅礦物質。碘亦都有助嬰兒腦部神經發育同埋成熟。嚴重缺碘咧可以導致初兒或者初生兒嘅腦部發育不全，亦都可能咧增加孕婦早產或者流產嘅風險。但係長期攝入過量碘就會影響甲狀腺嘅功能，譬如導致甲狀腺腫大啦、甲狀腺功能亢進啦、甲狀腺功能減退等等。消委會提醒，由於人類唔能夠儲存大量碘，所以消費嘅時候咧應該恆常地少量進食。今次測試結果顯示咧，全部樣本嘅碘含量咧都係屬於食物及藥物成分組合及標籤嘅規例，即係我哋講標籤規例嘅含豐富碘嘅食物。碘含量咧由100克至100克含有1030微克至34600微克不等。以每食用份量計算咧，每份含10微克至450微克碘，適量食用嘅時候咧可以避免碘攝入量不足嘅。咁我哋睇一睇啦。咁咧碘咧即食紫菜咧嘅碘含量豐富啦，但係我哋仍然都需要注意呢個碘嘅攝入量，因為太多咧係唔好嘅。咁譬如成人嚟講咧，以最高碘含量嘅1款壽司飯團用嘅紫菜樣本咧，我哋計算100克呢啲咁嘅紫菜咧就含有34600微克嘅碘。咁咧我哋會睇啦，如果我哋食用1份1片，咁咧佢哋碘嘅攝入量咧450微克，咁係可接受最高攝入量嘅達75%啦。咁如果我哋食2片咧，咁已經有900微克嘅攝入量，咁就會高出呢個可耐受嘅最高攝入量嘅，高出咗50%。咁如果我哋睇翻嬰幼兒啦，或者小童啦，1至3歲嘅幼兒，咁佢最高嘅碘攝入量嘅含量嘅1款嬰幼兒零食紫菜嚟到計咧，100克呢一啲咁嘅紫菜咧就有8570微克嘅碘。咁如果呢個食一小包，即係咁多啦，大2克到嘅紫菜就會攝入咗171微克，咁係最高攝入量嘅每日嘅85%。如果食2小包啦，即係唔係好多嘅啫嚇，就會攝入咗342微克，咁係高出咗每日嘅可攝入量嘅71%。咁所以咧就要注意咧，尤其是嬰幼兒嘅話咧，我哋就要格外小心咧，就係佢嘅紫菜食用量啦，因為佢哋嘅碘嘅攝入量嘅上限咧係較成人低嘅。咁4款聲稱可以俾36個月以下嬰幼兒食用嘅樣本，食用1份咧分別會攝入51至171微克嘅碘。咁當然碘含量最高1款樣本咧，更超咗1至3歲幼兒推薦攝入量嘅90%。參考咗中國營養學會、澳洲同埋新西蘭為幼兒訂立嘅碘最高攝入量，食用2份咧，呢一個樣本咧就可以攝入咗342微克嘅碘，亦都超出咗1至10歲小童嘅碘每日最高嘅攝入量。咁大家都要知道啦，除咗紫菜之外咧，我哋日常食好多嘢噶嘛，咁呢啲食物亦都會含有豐富嘅碘嘅，譬如話海魚啦、海產啦、海蝦啦等等，雞蛋啦、牛奶啦同埋其他奶類製品咧都會有碘嘅。咁我哋計一計數啦，如果兒童嘅餐單，我哋會有幾多碘咧？咁如果加入紫菜又會點樣咧？ 咁我哋睇啦，如果我4至6歲小童一日嘅餐單為例，咁我做咗2個餐單，一個餐單咧就會早餐食雞蛋啦。咁你要知道一隻雞蛋咧就會已經有18微克嘅碘含量。咁我哋中午咧食2個飯團用嘅紫菜啦，咁有120微克。茶點咧脫脂牛奶啦20微克。晚餐咧我哋紅衫魚肉1份啦，唔係好多㗎咋，就會有14個微克。咁總共呢一日呢個餐單裏邊碘嘅含量咧有172嘅微克。咁即係話咧達到推薦攝入量嘅191嘅百分比，好多啊，差唔多1倍。同埋可耐受最高攝入量嘅86%啦。咁我睇另外一個餐單啦，我哋朝頭早咧就唔食雞蛋，食乳酪啦，就會攝入咗9微克嘅碘。咁如果我正食呢個含量較低嘅食物嘅碘冇啦，咁零食紫菜我哋又加咗1份，有140微克。咁樣我哋大花蝦肉1份，晚餐咧就18微克，加埋咧就187微克。咁你睇到亦都係咧達到推薦攝入量嘅208%。咁同埋咧可耐受最高攝入量嘅每日嘅94%啦。咁所以即係話咧，大家咧就唔可以唔注意咧，有機會咧係攝入過量嘅碘嘅嚇。咁除咗碘之外咧，其實紫菜裏邊都含有鹽㗎。咁或者喺製造過程再添加鹽嘅話咧，鈉嘅含量咧就更高。而經常食用高鈉嘅食物咧，都會增加患上高血壓同埋心血管疾病嘅風險。咁我哋測試結果顯示咧，70樣本達到食安中心嘅高鈉水平。含量最高嘅樣本咧，就係有2960毫克嘅鈉。進食1片呢啲咁嘅樣本咧，就會攝入嘅量大概89毫克嘅鈉。佔咗世衛建議成人每日攝入量上限嘅4%，但係如果我哋一次食用整盒9片嘅紫菜咧，就會攝入咗799毫克嘅鈉，達到成人每日攝入量嘅鈉上限嘅40%。非零食紫菜嘅樣本之中咧，鈉含量最高嘅樣本咧，100克含有4840毫克嘅鈉。雖然食用1片所攝入鈉嘅含量咧，就梗係成人上限嘅3%，但係對小童嘅影響咧就會更加大嘅。如果家長用2片呢一款嘅紫菜同小童咧去製造飯團，單食用紫菜嘅鈉攝入量咧就已經係126毫克，已經係佔中國營養學會為4至6歲小童所訂定嘅預防非傳染性慢性病嘅建議攝入量嘅11%。如果飯團再配以其他高鈉食材，譬如話醬汁啦、午餐肉等咧，就大大增加小童嘅鈉嘅攝入量。至於脂肪含量方面咧，測試結果都顯示10款零食紫菜之中屬高脂食物。當中脂肪含量最高一款樣本咧，每100克總脂肪、總飽和脂肪酸同埋反式脂肪酸含量均為樣本之中嘅最高。紫菜睇嚟好似好輕巧啦，好乾身啦，咁容易被誤以為咧係脂肪含量唔高嘅食物。加上新興零食紫菜嘅款式好多，譬如話經油炸或者大量調味嘅紫菜咧，佢個脂肪含量咧係不容忽視嘅，係高脂嘅。測試亦都涵蓋咗咧6種金屬重污染物，包括鎘啦、鉛啦、鉻啦、汞控啦、無機砷啦同埋銻嘅含量。27款樣本咧都驗出2至5種嘅重金屬污染物，而且全部嘅樣本咧都驗出致癌物質鎘同埋無機砷，但係冇樣本咧檢出銻。但係參考本港、中國內地、歐盟同埋國際就各種重金屬污染物所訂定嘅可容忍攝入量同埋暫定可容忍攝入量嘅上限咧，我哋全部嘅樣本咧檢出嘅重金屬含量咧都冇超標嘅，咁所以正常食用之下咧唔會影響健康。關於營養標籤方面咧，除咗4款樣本未能夠直接比較之外咧，其餘樣本最少有一種嘅營養素嘅標示值同埋測試結果嘅差距咧，唔符合食安中心嘅營養標籤同埋營養聲稱技術指引中嘅要求。有關樣本嘅資料已經交咗食安中心跟進。另外，根據標籤規例，雖然預先包裝食物無需於營養標籤上面標示碘含量，但係由於我哋今次測試發現咧，各種紫菜樣本嘅碘含量差異好大，消委會建議廠商咧喺產品嘅營養標籤上面標示碘含量，特別係想俾嬰幼兒食用嘅紫菜產品，更加需要標示碘嘅含量，令到消費者可以選擇嘅。咁我俾2個 tips 大家咧，當我哋食用呢個即食紫菜嘅一啲建議。第一咧，我哋一定要注意鈉、脂肪同埋糖嘅攝取量，建議咧選取原味或者調味料較少嘅紫菜。第二咧，根據香港營養師協會嘅建議咧，如果消費者懷疑攝入過量嘅碘，並且出現咧頸部腫脹等症狀， 應該盡快諮詢醫生。而腎病病人同埋正在服用華法林即係抗凝血藥嘅病人咧，於食用紫菜之前咧，應該係諮詢醫生或者註冊營養師嘅意見嘅。咁我哋第三個研究咧，就係嘅結果就係現在好流行嘅音樂串流平台。咁喺一機在手、天下有我嘅時代，日常生活好多範疇咧都依靠智能裝置啦，聽音樂亦都唔再例外之外嘅。以串流方式去播放音樂已經成為咗主流㗎啦。消費者委員會今次咧係第一次實施比較7個音樂串流平台嘅服務，發現咧平台之間提供嘅歌曲嘅質同埋量、收費以至客戶服務水平嘅差異頗大。以歌庫藏量嚟到計咧，唔同平台嘅相差可以超過1倍。另外音質方面咧，即使係消費者願意俾多啲比基本月費更貴，甚至高出1倍嘅費用，選擇無損或者高解析嘅音質計劃，但係如果冇適當嘅播放裝置同埋器材咧，隨時係得物無所用，未必能夠享受到預期嘅音質效果。各平台所以提供嘅消費者可要多加利用免費試用呢個服務，以選揀合適嘅平台。但係需注意，有過半嘅平台咧喺試用期之後咧會自動續訂或者收費。所以喺購買服務之前咧，消費者要詳細閱讀條款同埋細則，避免發生爭拗。今次測試實試嘅發現咧，平台間嘅客戶服務水平良莠不齊，有平台咧完全冇提供任何客服嘅聯絡方法，亦都有平台咧1個星期之後咧仍然都未回覆任何查詢電郵。消委會敦促有關音樂串流平台要改善客戶服務水平，以保障消費者嘅權益。咁消費者決定揀邊一個音樂串流平台咧，其中一個好重要嘅考慮因素咧就係歌庫嘅藏量啦，係咪有充足嘅選擇，可以隨時隨地挑選心儀嘅歌曲。咁7個平台嘅歌庫咧都包含咗本地啦、華語啦、日韓啦、歐美音樂。其中6個平台咧聲稱收納嘅樂曲大約有4000萬到9000萬首，差距超過咗1倍嘅。另外1個平台咧就冇披露佢嘅資料。咁有6個平台咧允許用戶喺訂閱之前咧查看歌庫同埋搜尋歌曲，以便在訂閱前咧尋找最適合自己嘅平台。但係消委會咧喺實試嘅時候，搜尋歌曲功能發現咧，部分日韓歌手或者歌曲名稱咧要改以英文或者羅馬拼音輸入法先至可以成功尋獲，咁或者影響咗用戶嘅體驗。另外，全部平台嘅流動應用程式咧都設有離線播放功能，令到用戶咧係無需接連互聯網或者耗用流動數據就可以聽到音樂。當中4個平台嘅就容許咧用戶咧下載同埋保存歌曲嘅數量咧係介乎4000首到10萬首，相差咧達到24倍嘅。另外2個平台聲稱咧唔設下載上限，另外1個平台咧就唔係會列出咧相關嘅資料。咁除咗量之外咧，部分嘅平台咧亦都以質作為賣點㗎，標榜無損啦，甚至係高解析音質。有5個平台提供相關功能，當中4個平台嘅高解析音質嘅位元率咧，最高可以達到9216嘅 kbps。剩翻1個平台咧係支援無損播放嘅平台咧，其中歌庫嘅無損音樂嘅音質嘅樂曲咧較其他平台少嘅。咁所顯示嘅樂曲檔案大小咧，亦都時有出錯。呢個平台嘅應用程式同埋網站咧，亦都冇列出音質嘅詳細信息，資料透明度欠佳。雖然有平台聲稱佢嘅高解析音質可以媲美咧錄音室嘅水平，但係消費者需要注意，無損或者高解析音質未必適用於平台嘅所有界面。5個相關平台嘅流動應用程式都支援咗無損或者高解析播放，但係其中1個平台嘅網頁版咧只支援以 Chrome 或者 Firefox 嘅瀏覽器播放無損音樂，高解析音樂咧只可以透過電腦應用程式嚟到收聽。咁有3個平台嘅網頁版咧就唔支援無損或者高解析播放。事實上，學術界對於人類聽覺能否分辨高解析音樂仍然都有爭議嘅。有平台亦都咧提到視乎呢個收聽人嘅主觀感覺係點樣，咁亦都係或者受到先天條件有限，所以咧即使選用咗高解析服務計劃，亦都唔一定能夠享受更佳嘅聆聽體驗。 消費者留意到咧，以智能裝置收聽呢個高解析音樂，或者需要外置數碼模擬轉換器，我哋叫 DAC， 亦都需要配備合適嘅耳機先能夠呈現到高解析嘅音色。各個平台除咗以歌曲質量嚟到吸引消費者之外咧，消費者亦都有競爭力啦。咁7個平台嘅基本個人計劃標準收費每個月介乎咧48蚊至58蚊，其中有4個平台嘅基本計劃咧，已包括咗無損音質及或者高解析音質。有平台另外提供咗無損及高解析音質計劃，收費咧就可以每個月咧係最低68蚊至最高嘅116蚊，即係話較基本收費計劃咧高出咗1倍嘅。有3個平台除咗提供月費計劃之外咧，亦都有按季啦、半年啦、全年嘅收費模式。但係當中2個平台咧，只會將大部分嘅收費模式咧，或者其他優惠計劃咧，列咗喺網頁嚟到俾用戶選擇。流動應用程式嘅付費頁面咧，就只有月費計劃選項。咁消費者或者因為界面資訊差異而未能挑選最符合自身需要嘅計劃。如果想同家人共同訂閱音樂串流平台嘅服務咧，全部7個平台都有呢個家庭服務計劃嘅選項。咁每個月收費咧由66蚊至144蚊，可以共享計劃嘅成員咧包括由2個人至6個人不等。每人平均收費咧由最低12蚊咧至最高嘅26.3，相差超過1倍嘅。消費者喺付款之前咧，如果能夠實際試用，更能夠清楚知道該平台嘅服務是否合乎心意。全部7個平台都提供免費試用服務。當中3個提供咗14日嘅免費試用，其餘4個嘅標準試用期咧就大約係30日或者1個月。但係消費者注意，有4個平台嘅條款同埋細則列明咧，會喺試用期之後咧自動延續服務收費。用戶如果唔希望付款咧，就要喺訂閱結束前提出終止服務要求。另外3個平台咧就唔會為用戶自動續訂。消委會提醒消費者喺登記免費試用前咧，呢個服務咧需要係細心詳閱相關服務細則同埋條款，並且喺裝置中咧記下試用期到期日，俾你提示，以便咧日後咧係取消呢個訂閱。消費者亦都可以利用其中3個平台提供嘅免費版收聽音樂，但係要留意咧，免費版同埋免費試用咧係唔同嘅。咁啊，免費版咧，佢嘅部分功能咧可能會受到限制。消委會實測嘅時候咧，發現3個免費版咧都會出現間歇性播放廣告啦，唔提供呢個離線嘅播放服務啦，以及音質選擇咧係較少嘅情況。假如喺使用音樂平台嘅過程中遇到技術或者收費問題，消費者能否適時地找到客戶服務支援係非常之重要。消委會職員咧喺唔同日子嘅同一時段，以用戶身份向各平台嘅客戶服務查詢。其中1個平台咧，1個星期之後咧，仍未對任何查詢嘅電郵咧作出回應，服務表現極需改善。另外1個平台嘅客戶服務熱線咧，就難以聯絡客戶服務人員，查詢電話咧亦不斷喺服務熱線同埋銷售熱線之間咧來回接駁。消委會職員最終咧就發放電郵，先能夠成功取消訂閱，過程轉折。消委會敦促有關音樂串流平台從速改善客戶服務，以保障消費者嘅權益。利用音樂串流服務嚟到播放歌曲已經成為主流啦。部分平台嘅歌庫咧較多歐美嘅歌曲，有啲咧就係較注重本地音樂。消費者喺使用音樂串流平台嘅時候咧，可以考慮下面一個 tips 嘅。唔少平台喺免費試用期過後咧，會自動幫你續訂㗎。假如消費者咧唔希望使用自動續訂服務，有平台咧係提供單次購買服務計劃，訂閱期過之後咧，亦都會自動終止合約嘅，唔會衍生任何續約嘅費用。此外咧，消費者亦都注意咧，刪除平台嘅應用程式咧，唔等於咧提出終止服務。所以我哋用呢個服務嘅時候咧，就要注意啦。咁啊，第4個我哋要報告嘅一個文章咧，就係先買後付，亦都依家好流行㗎啦。近年咧，銀行或者個別嘅平台咧，陸續推出先買後付嘅新興金融產品，標榜咧先享受後俾錢啦，聲稱可以提供免息分期付款。咁呢個消費模式咧，睇嚟好似好吸引喎。但係大家都知道，天下冇免費嘅午餐嘅。消費者委員會咧檢視市面上先買後付嘅平台嘅服務內容同埋條款細則，發現消費者一旦逾期還款，需要承擔唔同嘅費用，或者甚至喺未通知消費者嘅情況之下咧，暫停或者終止佢嘅賬戶嘅。另外，相關平台嘅客戶服務同埋支援有限， 部分條款咧亦都欠缺透明度，平台與商家之間嘅責任咧亦都未必清晰，退款機制亦都各有不同，消費者嘅權益或者權利同埋保障成疑嘅。消委會提醒，先買後付其實咧就係先使未來錢，消費者咧應該清楚了解當中嘅條款同埋費用，切勿高估自己嘅負擔能力，導致過度消費。另外，消委會關注市場上由非銀行提供嘅先買後付分期付款產品嘅規管問題，促請咧非銀行提供嘅先買後付嘅平台咧向公司註冊人咧、註冊處咧申請放債人牌照。另外，呢啲平台亦都可以參考香港金融管理局，我哋叫金管局最近對銀行發出嘅指引，盡快落實保護消費者嘅措施。近年先買後付出現喺網上同埋小額交易，消費者喺先買後付平台開戶，輸入咗個人資料，上載身份證明通過認證，再綁定香港發行嘅信用卡或者扣賬卡，就可以咧喺指定嘅合作嘅網站或者實體店咧係購買東西。喺取貨之後嘅指定時間之內咧，以分期付款嘅方式咧，要繳付咧購物嘅金額。普遍先買後付平台無需提供入息證明或者查詢信貸記錄，吸引咗啲冇固定收入嘅消費者，譬如自由工作者啦、學生啦、家庭主婦啦、失業人士申請服務嘅。由於選用先買後付嘅門檻頗低，如果長期使用咧，就有可能造成一種依賴，或者不知不覺之間咧就過度消費。一旦無力償還帳單，或者會因為逾期付款而需要承擔咧罰款，甚至咧影響呢個信貸嘅記錄嘅。先買後付平台大多咧都係標榜着睇消費者咧免費分期付款，付款期咧通常都會較短嘅，大約係3個月啦。但係消委會檢視當中嘅逾期付款條款，發現咗唔同平台咧就各有規定，或者涉及咧各種名目嘅收費，譬如延期付款行政費啦、戶口解凍嘅手續費啦。有平台嘅免息分期咧，只係限於首3個月，及後每個月嘅手續費為交易金額0.2%。部分平台嘅條款咧顯示，平台可以喺未知會消費者嘅情況之下咧，自行決定或者更改行政費用。消費者如果未能及時付款咧，衍生嘅費用咧可能唔低㗎嚇。平台甚至可以交由第三方收款代理追討欠款，以及可以隨時以任何理由咧拒絕、暫停或者終止消費者嘅帳戶。咁大家睇下咧，依家市面上我哋介紹咗3個嘅平台啦，就係先買後付嘅，佢需要嘅利息同埋相關手續係點啦？咁我哋第一咧就 A 公司啦，咁係一個虛擬銀行提供嘅先買後付嘅產品，咁消費上限咧就5萬蚊，付款期咧就3至36個月，利息咧就係首3個月嘅利息同埋手續費，就其餘嘅就免除，其餘嘅期數咧就每個月手續費咧為交易金額0.2%。咁逾期付款手續費咧，就如果逾期利息咧以還款期嘅計算，約年利率為約年利率，逾期嘅費用咧劃一每款咧每期咧係300蚊，或者到期應付嘅款項以較低者為標準嘅。咁其他條例咧就冇寫到啦。咁第二間公司咧就係非銀行提供嘅先買後付產品，咁上限咧係1萬蚊，還款期咧就係付款期咧係3期，咁利息唔知道唔詳細。咁逾期還款嘅手續費咧，每次係50蚊嘅，仲需要喺7日之內咧還款，否則咧就會再收另外嘅50蚊。咁戶口解凍手續費咧就100蚊，交易手續費咧就係上限咧每單係300蚊。咁其他限制咧凍結帳戶直至完成付款。咁另外一個 C 公司咧就係非銀行提供嘅先買後付嘅產品嚟嘅都係。咁咧就上限咧就冇寫嘅，就要不同嘅消費者個人資料要決定啦。咁付款期係3期，利息唔詳細，逾期付款手續費唔詳細。咁其他限制咧就係喺客戶無法支付任何費用之下咧，限制進行嘅新交易。咁所以即係話每間公司咧佢限制嘅唔同，要罰錢亦都唔同嘅。所以消費者咧就要注意咧先買後付呢個問題啦。咁另外一個咧就係售後服務啦。咁即係平台同埋客戶之間嘅關係啦，就有不少改善嘅空間。消委會分別喺2021年至2022年嘅1月至8月收到9宗同埋18宗涉及先買後付嘅投訴。投訴涉及商家未有清楚解釋同埋先買後付平台之間嘅關係，消費者喺不知不覺之下咧，亦都唔知道服務咧係由第三方提供嘅情況之下咧，使用咗先買後付嘅平台消費。 另外，消委會發現咗咧，唔少喺香港營運嘅先買後付平台嘅公司總部咧，都設置於海外嘅。有部分平台咧，只係提供電郵地址作查詢或者投訴。有消費者喺被解凍帳戶後，或者欲取消交易嘅時候咧，無法即時聯絡相關平台，或者只係獲得聊天機械人回覆，未能得到適時嘅協助，亦都難以取回退款。平台同埋商家權益亦都唔清楚嘅，如果有爭議嘅時候咧，容易互相推卸責任，令消費者咧缺乏保障。此外，先買後付嘅退貨或者退款機制咧，就由平台而定嘅。我正話都俾咗個例子啦，令到消費者咧處於非常被動嘅位置，對消費者保障成疑。例如有平台表明需待商家確認同完全退款先可以退款啦，退貨然之後先可以退款啦。而喺該平台確認之前咧，消費者必須完成俾錢啦。另外就涉及退款、退貨嘅要求，或須經平台嘅審核。先買後付平台亦都以利用人工智能或者數據進行分析，按照消費者嘅資料去分配等級，提供唔同嘅購物金額上限，甚至凍結帳戶。但係當中嘅決定因素唔會透明地、公開地向用戶解釋，有機會咧消費者造成不公平。近期全球唔少公司咧，或者司法管轄區咧，開始咧對先買後付嘅監管進行諮詢嘅。但係本港金管局於今年咧9月就先買後付產品向銀行發出通告，要求銀行落實一系列嘅措施以保障消費者，當中包括咗批出申請人申請前必須評估申請人嘅信貸狀況，以及考慮申請人嘅退款還款功能。必須清楚同埋顯著地註明先買後付屬於信貸產品，避免塑造先買後付不等於借錢嘅觀感。同時清楚披露相關費用同埋利息，並以實際年利率列出相關費用同埋利息供客戶參考。儘管目前銀行包括虛擬銀行提供嘅先買後付產品須遵從金管局訂立適用於個人信貸產品嘅規定，但係非銀行經營嘅先買後付平台就唔受到有關約束。另外，先買後付嘅平台目前未有劃一嘅營運模式。個別平台如果佢嘅業務涉及向客戶或者用戶提供貸款，須按放貸人嘅條款要求取得放貸人嘅牌照。不過，目前幾個先買後付嘅主流平台都冇持有放債人嘅牌照。消委會建議咧，非銀行提供嘅先買後付平台亦都應向公司註冊處申請放債人嘅牌照，保障消費者嘅權益。呢啲平台咧亦都可以參考金管局最近對銀行發出嘅指引，加強保障消費者。咁因為再一個嘅文章咧，最後一個咧就係關於獸醫嘅收費啦。咁我哋知道咧，唔少貓奴狗奴咧都視寵物如親生仔女咁錫啊。萬一呢個毛孩健康出現咗問題咧，即使花費巨額嘅醫療費啦，都在所不惜。本港獸醫嘅收費普遍高昂。求醫問診咧，最基本要係近乎1000蚊，萬一要做手術咧，即動輒數萬蚊，甚至逾10萬蚊嘅。消費者委員會咧接獲投訴，只有獸醫服務收費欠透明，有個案嘅診金咧較報價時高近1倍，亦都有獸醫診所咧為每項藥物咧設最低消費或者收費，但係收據咧冇列明相關嘅條例，令消費者咧蒙在鼓裏。消委會提醒咧消費者喺支付獸醫診所診金前咧，要先清楚了解治療方案、收費內容同埋核對收據。對於治療期間，亦要同獸醫裏邊咧了解各項嘅細節，以免失去預算。咁今日咧就由於時間關係咧，就介紹一個個案嘅啫。咁呢個咧就係關於為狗隻咧係膽囊嘅切除手術嘅。咁投訴人咧帶住佢嘅愛犬咧到 B 動物診所咧就求醫，醫生建議咧進行膽囊嘅切除手術同埋相關治療。手術後咧需要於深切治療部咧觀察數天，報價咧大約係65000蚊。投訴人接受並且安排愛犬咧入院，即日接受手術。因為家中有接受過醫療訓練嘅人士可以幫手照顧愛犬，咁所以喺手術後第3日咧提出咗出院申請，但係遭受診所拒絕，直至手術第7日咧，先至診所先同意咧將安排愛犬咧係出院嘅。治療費用咧合共咧係126,183蚊。即係話比報價咧係高出咗近1倍。投訴人表示震驚，諗係愛犬接受治療期間，呢個診所咧從未就任何額外收費同佢聯絡、解釋同埋徵求同意，因此咧不接受呢個收費安排，並向消委會投訴。 咁 B 公司咧，B 診所咧就回覆消委會嘅時候咧，就話投訴人喺辦理入院手續嘅時候咧，已經簽署咗住院同埋手術同意書，同意書上列明咧重要事項同埋所有可能需要嘅治療嘅同埋收費，因此診所咧喺治療嘅時候咧，唔會另外再徵詢寵物主人嘅意向，亦都唔會咧再作通知。投訴人認為診所即使以同意書作解釋，但最終收費與報價差距過大，做法實屬不妥。消委會多次同診所咧作調停，但係診所仍然維持佢嘅決定唔變。消委會唯有咧建議投訴人咧可循其他途徑再跟進，例如向獸醫管理局投訴。咁消委會指出，根據註冊獸醫實務守則，獸醫須向消費者咧提供有關嘅診症，例如例行化驗同埋一般費用及收費一覽表嘅。獸醫報價嘅時候咧，應該詳細講解治療方案。除非緊急情況，就醫期間應該同埋消費者咧保持緊密嘅溝通，同埋就收費項目同埋金額咧徵求消費者嘅同意。如果有任何特定收費及退款安排，亦都應該咧係清楚列明，以提高收費嘅透明度。實務守則亦都列明咧，收費價格不得過高。雖然佢冇解釋咩叫過高啦，定義係乜嘢，但係獸醫應該遵從咧成本同埋消費者嘅角度，考慮收費嘅合理性同埋負擔能力。獸醫處方嘅藥物嘅分量嘅時候咧，除咗根據寵物身體狀況同埋醫療需要外咧，仲要考慮其他因素係咪恰當。至於另外一個個案裏邊所安排嘅發放相等於最低收費嘅藥物分量咧，做法咧係十分之欠妥嘅。咁當毛孩生病嘅時候咧，主人切記咧就係病急亂投醫啦。寵物主人咧可以參考咧一啲我哋嘅意見嘅。其中有一個咧就係確認寵物接受診療之前，應該同獸醫咧係多溝通關於佢嘅治療方案，了解治療嘅結果同埋費用。療程之中咧亦都同獸醫咧保持聯絡，掌握喺治療措施同埋費用有冇改動嘅。第二咧，如果涉及較為複雜嘅治療咧，消費者可能咧需要向獸醫診所咧繳付訂金。繳費前應該先了解，如果最終未能使用呢個治療費用嘅退款政策同埋安排情況。咁呢個咧係今日我哋想報告嘅5篇文章。Let me summarize the key findings of these 5 papers in English now. First one is about toothpaste. The habit of brushing teeth every morning and evening is essential for maintaining good dental and oral health. As such, toothpaste is an essential daily oral care product for both children and elders. Apart from basic cleaning function, many toothpaste prone other properties, such as desensitization, whitening, prevention of dental calculus, etc. In the Consumer Council test on 30 models of toothpaste for common use and for children, 3 out of the 30 models of children's toothpaste were found with a pH level that was too low, failing to comply with the mainland standard and might lead to damage of the tooth enamel. Whereas the fluoride contents of 2 children's toothpaste models claiming to contain fluoride were too low and might not be able to strengthen the teeth. Besides, 16 models were detected with allergenic fragrance, of which 4 had a detectable amount that exceeds the upper limit that required labeling set by the European Union (EU) regulation, yet did not display the name of the allergens in the list of ingredients. Furthermore, 90% of the models were detected with trace amounts of heavy metals, arsenic, and/or lead. And while the levels did not exceed the relevant standards, consumers should be mindful of the risk of ingesting this substance over a prolonged period. The Council stressed that, as toothpaste is an important daily oral care product, traders have the responsibility to ensure the product are able to provide adequate protection for the teeth, and to clearly list out the ingredients and prevent any allergenic substance or heavy metals, so as to safeguard the health of consumers. About pH. It is essential for children to nurture the good health of cleaning the teeth and oral cavity from a young age, in order to ensure the health growth of these teeth during the developmental stage. However, if the toothpaste ingredient do not comply with the standards, it would affect dental and oral health despite good oral health care habits. When purchasing toothpaste, consumers should be mindful of the product's pH value. Prolonged contact with too acidic, pH value too low, or too alkaline, pH value too high. Oral care products might be detrimental to dental and oral health. The pH values of the 13 children's toothpaste models range from 3.8 to 8.2, amongst which the pH value of 3 models were relatively low and failed to comply with the mainland standard, which required the pH value of toothpaste to be not lower than 5.5 or higher than 10.5. The Council reminds consumers that when the pH value in the oral cavity drops to below 5.5, the tooth enamel might be dissolved. Brushing the teeth with toothpaste that is too acidic, added to the friction of the toothbrush, might weaken the surface of the teeth and could even lead to abrasion. Therefore, consumers are advised to avoid using toothpaste that is too acidic. The Council has referred the relevant result to the Customs and Excise Department for following up. As for the 17 toothpaste model for common use, the pH value ranged from 6.4 to 9.5, all in compliance with the mainland standard. Furthermore, many toothpastes are marketed as containing fluoride to strengthen the teeth against damage by acidic substance, as well as to inhibit the formation of plaque. Regular intake of an appropriate amount of fluoride could strengthen the tooth enamel of young children, make their teeth stronger, and prevent tooth decay. Amongst the test models, 6 toothpastes for children and 6 toothpastes for adults were labeled as containing fluoride and/or displayed its fluoride content on its product packaging. Amongst the 6 models of the children's toothpaste claiming to contain fluoride, 2 models did not comply with the mainland standards requirement, possibly unable to provide sufficient protection to children's teeth. Out of the 17 common use toothpaste models, 9 were detected with fluoride at levels that were generally higher than that of the children's toothpaste models, all complying with the mainland standard. However, 3 models did not declare that it contained fluoride and/or its fluoride content on the packaging. Moreover, eugenol is added into many oral care products as flavoring, whereas limonene is a common fragrance for fruity flavored toothpastes. However, some individuals could have severe allergic responses to those allergenic fragrances. Overseas study report revealed that severe allergenic reaction to these chemicals could lead to contact dermatitis and even mouth ulcers. In view of this, the EU Cosmetic Directives requires that all range of cosmetic products with an allergenic fragrance concentration of higher than 0.01% must declare it in the list of the ingredients. 16 of the test models were detected with the allergenic fragrance, eugenol, and/or limonene respectively, including 2 common use toothpastes and 4 children's toothpastes. 6 models were detected with eugenol, of which 1 children's toothpaste model contained 0.01% eugenol, which exceeds the upper limit that required labeling for this substance as set out by the EU's cosmetic directives. Yet this product did not declare eugenol in its list of ingredients as required. Additionally, 12 models were detected with limonene, amongst which 2 children's toothpaste models and 3 common use toothpaste models had detected limonene concentrations that exceeds the upper limit for mandatory labeling set by the EU directives. 3 of these models did not display limonene in the list of ingredients, including the high-risk priced adult toothpaste model. The Council urged relevant traders to list out the product's allergenic substance and recommends consumers with history of allergic reactions to carefully read the list of ingredients when choosing oral care products. Referencing the mainland standard, the current test revealed the content of the heavy metals arsenic and lead in the toothpaste model. Arsenic was detected in 7 models at levels ranging from 0.088 mg per kilogram to 0.29 mg per kilogram, lower than the 2 mg per kilogram upper limit set by the mainland standard. 26 models were detected with lead at levels ranging from 0.052 to 0.80 mg per kilogram, which was lower than the mainland standard's upper limit of 10 mg per kilogram. Consumers should bear in mind that despite detected heavy metal levels of all models being compliant with the mainland standard, as heavy metal could accumulate inside the body, they could pose greater health risk. If inorganic arsenic is ingested over a prolonged period, it might cause peripheral vascular disease, cardiovascular diseases, or even high blood pressure. As for lead, it could accumulate once it enters the body, as chronic exposure to lead could impair children's cognitive development and affect the systolic blood pressure of elders, the intake of any lead-containing substance should be minimized as much as possible. The Council is concerned that out of the 30 models of children's toothpaste tested, 12 were detected with trace amount of heavy metals, including some models which were labeled as suitable for babies or young children under the age of 3. As babies and young children are yet to grasp how to completely spit out the toothpaste and foam when rinsing their mouth, parents should provide guidance by their side so as to minimize the intake of heavy metals due to swallowing the toothpaste. Though the test also found microbiological contamination in 2 models of children's toothpaste, the colony forming units were lower than the maximum limit set by the mainland standard. All models were not detected with prohibited substance set by the EU directives, performing satisfactorily in this test item. However, out of the 30 models, only 23 were labeled with detailed information of the ingredients in Chinese and English on the tube or outer packaging. Consumers might not be able to fully grasp the product information. Another 2 models were not labeled with the expiry date, which was unideal in terms of product labeling information. To maintain healthy teeth, apart from selecting a suitable toothpaste, it's also important to practice regular oral care appropriately. Consumers may refer to the following 2 tips. 1, brush your teeth at least twice daily, while also bearing in mind that brushing your teeth too frequently might ablate the tooth enamel and irrigate the gums, increasing the chance of infection and inflammation. Second, after children develop their first tooth, parents should brush their teeth when they wake up each morning and before bed every evening. For children under the age of 3, parents could smear a small amount of regular adult toothpaste containing fluoride on the toothbrush, while children aged 3 to 6 should use a pea-sized portion of toothpaste. The second paper today is about seaweed. Seaweed has for many years been labeled as a healthy food due to its rich mineral content, especially as a source of iodine. It's also highly versatile. In its dry form, it can be an easy grab and go snack, an essential ingredient in Asian cuisine such as sushi, onigiri, Japanese rice balls, kimbap, Korean sushi rolls, or even as a topping for congee and rice. According to the Consumer Council latest test on 27 ready-to-eat seaweed samples, all samples were found with a high iodine content, which could help maintaining metabolism when consumed in moderation, but could affect the thyroid function with excessive intake. In particular, amongst the 4 samples labeled as suitable for infants and young children under 36 months old, one was found to have an iodine content per serving that exceeds the daily recommended nutrient intake, we call RNI, for infants and young children aged 1 to 3 by 90%. Parents are advised to pay extra heed when preparing meals with seaweed for their children. At the same time, 70% were found to be high sodium food, according to the standard set by the Center for Food Safety, CFS. As seaweed is often seen as tasty, bite-sized snacks, it's easy to eat several servings at a time, which would increase the risk of nutrients intake exceeding the respective upper limit, especially for infants and young children. The 27 ready-to-eat seaweed samples include 18 seaweed snacks, 8 nori seaweed wrappers for sushi or onigiri, and 1 shredded seaweed samples, priced from $10 to $62 per pack. Among the samples, 4 seaweed snacks were labeled as suitable for infants and young children under 36 months old. Thus were classified as food for infants and young children. Test items include the nutrient content and 6 types of metallic contaminants, while the nutrition labeling was also reviewed and compared against the test result. Iodine is an essential mineral for maintaining normal thyroid functions and metabolism in human body, and for development of brain, nervous system, and body of infants. Severe iodine deficiency may lead to brain damage in fetuses or newborns, and could even impose risk of premature labor or miscarriages in pregnant women. On the other hand, prolonged excessive iodine intake could result in thyroid dysfunctioning, such as gouty, hyperthyroidism, and hypothyroidism. The Council reminds consumers that as the human body cannot store huge amounts of iodine, It must be consumed in small quantities regularly. The test result revealed that all samples rich in iodine levels set out in the Food and Drugs Composition and Labeling Regulations, with iodine contents per 100 gram range from 1,030 microgram to 34,600 microgram, equivalent to 10 to 45 microgram per suggested serving size. When consumed in appropriate amounts, they could help prevent iodine deficiency. The highest iodine content per 100 gram was found in a sample of Norway seaweed for rice balls. Consumption of one suggested serving would amount to an iodine intake of 400 microgram, 50 microgram, which is higher than the daily RNI of iodine for adults, and equivalent to 75% of the tolerable upper intake level, we call UL, set by the Chinese Nutrition Society. Upon consumption of 2 servings of the above sample, the iodine intake would exceed the daily UL for adults recommended by the CNS, the Chinese Nutrition Society, while reaching 50% of that recommended by the World Health Organization, WHO. As such, consumers should be mindful of the content per serving size so as to prevent excess iodine intake. In particular, parents should pay extra heed to the seaweed consumption size by infants and young children, as they have a lower UL of iodine as compared with adults. For the 4 samples labeled as suitable for infants and young children under 36 months old, the iodine content per suggested serving range from 51 to 171 microgram, of which the sample with the highest iodine content exceed the RNI for young children aged 1 to 3 by 90%. Referencing the UL for young children set by CNS, Australia, and New Zealand, consuming 2 servings of the aforementioned sample with the highest iodine content would incur an iodine intake of 342 microgram, which exceed the daily iodine UL for children aged 1 to 10. Aside from seaweed, a number of foods in the daily diet are already rich in iodine, such as saltwater fish, seafood, eggs, milk, and dairy products. Taking, for example, a daily menu of an egg for breakfast, 2 onigiri rice balls for lunch, an afternoon snack of skim meal, and a portion of golden flatfish bean for dinner. The total iodine intake would add up to around 172 microgram, equivalent to 191% of RNI and 86% of the UL for a 4 to 6-year-old child. With this in mind, parents should pay attention to the serving size of seaweed as well as other iodine-rich ingredients when preparing meals for their children. As seaweed naturally contains salt, its sodium content will be even higher if salt is added during the manufacturing process. Excessive sodium intake over a prolonged period will increase the risk of high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. In the test, 70% were found to reach the high sodium food levels as defined by the CFS. In the select category, the sample with the high sodium content translates a sodium intake of 89 milligram per serving. If one consumes the whole box of 9 pieces, the sodium intake would amount to 799 milligram, equivalent to 40% of the daily maximum intake for adults. In terms of the non-select category, the sample with the highest sodium content was found with 4,840 milligrams sodium. Despite its sodium intake per serving merely accounting for 3% of the maximum intake for adults, the implication will be much greater for children. Assuming that a parent prepares onigiri for the child using 2 pieces of this seaweed sample, the seaweed alone will incur sodium intake equivalent to 11% of the proposed intake for preventing non-communicable chronic diseases for children aged 4 to 6 recommended by the CNS. If the onigiri also contain other high sodium ingredients such as sauces, luncheon meat, etc., it will greatly increase the sodium intake of the child. Meanwhile, in terms of the fat content, 10 samples were high-fat food, while with fat content high. Amongst these, the sample with the highest fat content was the highest among the total fat, across the total fat. The saturated fatty acid and trans fatty acid content per 100 gram. While it's easy to consume that seaweed, with the light and relatively dry texture, would not be high in fat. Novelty varieties of seaweed legs, such as those fried and heavily seasoned, its fat level cannot be undermined. 6 types of metallic contaminants, namely cadmium, lead, chromium, total mercury, inorganic arsenic, and antimony, were tested. All 27 samples were detected with 2 to 5 types of metallic contaminants, with cadmium and inorganic arsenic, a human carcinogen, being the most common metallic contaminants, both found in all 27 samples, while antimony were not detected in any of the ingredients, in any of the samples. Nevertheless, with reference to the respective maximum level, tolerable intake or provisional tolerable intake set out in Hong Kong, the mainland, European Union, and International Committee for each type of metallic contaminant, the detected amount of all metallic contaminant in the sample did not exceed the respective standards and would probably not pose health risk when consumed in regular portion. Aside from 4 samples which could not be directly compared, the rest was found with discrepancy between the declared and detected content of one or more nutrients that did not comply with the requirements set out in the technical guidance notes on nutrition labeling and nutrition claims by the CFS. So, we would like to remind that when you consume seaweed, be mindful of the sodium, fat, and sugar intake levels. Consumers are recommended to select a variety of original flavor or without seasoning. And then the third paper for today is about music streaming platforms. In an era where one phone can bring you the world at your fingertips, many aspects of daily life rely on smart devices. And listening to music is of no exception, with music streaming becoming the norm. The Consumer Council compared the services of 7 music streaming platforms for the first time and found significant differences in the quality and quantity of songs offered, the fees charged, and the level of customer services among the platforms. The songs collection among platforms could be differed by more than 1-fold. Furthermore, even if consumers were willing to pay up to 1 time more than the basic monthly plan for looseless or high-resolution service plan, they might not be able to enjoy the desired sound quality without the proper payback device and equipment. Consumers are advised to make good use of the free trial offered by all platforms to assess the suitability of stream services before subscribing. But be mindful of the fact that more than half of the platform would automatically renew their subscription and charge accordingly after the trial period. So it's important to read the terms and conditions carefully before subscribing to avoid disputes. In the trials, the Council found that the level of customer service varied considerably between platforms, with some platforms not providing any customer services contact information at all, while some platforms did not reply to any emails inquiries even after a week. The Council urged the music streaming platforms concerned to strengthen their customer service to safeguard the interests of consumers. One of the factors that consumers consider when deciding which music streaming platform to use was its wealth of songs to be enjoyed anytime, anywhere. The song libraries of 7 platforms all include local, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, European, and American music. 6 of the platforms claim to possess songs from 40 million to 90 million, a difference of more than 1-fold, while the remaining platform made no disclosure. 6 platforms allow users to browse the library and search for songs before subscribing, enabling consumers to determine the suitability before subscribing. However, when the Council staff tested the song's search function, it was found that English or Pinyin romanization has to be entered in order to successfully search for certain Japanese and Korean artists or song titles, which might affect the user experience. In addition, all mobile apps of the platform featured offline playback, allowing users to listen to music without having to connect to any internet or consume mobile data. 4 of the platforms permitted users to download and save their music ranging from 4,000 to 100,000 songs, a difference of 24 times. Another 2 platforms claimed that there was no download limit, while the remaining one did not disclose the limit. Besides quantity, some platforms also use quality as their selling point, advertising looseness or even high-resolution sound quality. 5 platforms offer the features, with 4 platforms providing high-resolution music at base rates up to 9,216 kbps. The remaining platform, which supports lossless playback, have fewer lossless songs in its library than the other platforms, and would occasionally display incorrect file size of such songs. The platform's app and website also did not specify the details of the sound quality, providing a lack of information transparency. Proving a lack of information transparency. While some platforms claim that the high-resolution sound quality was comparable to that of recording studios, consumers should note that looseness or high-resolution sound quality might not be applicable to all interfaces of the platform. The mobile apps of 5 relevant platforms support lossless or high-resolution playback, whereas the web version of one platform supported playing lossless music on Chrome or Firefox only, while high-resolution music could only be listened to via its PC app. The web version of 3 platforms did not support lossless or high-resolution playback. In fact, there was still an ongoing academic debate on whether high-resolution music is distinguishable for human hearing. Some platforms also mentioned that hearing was subjective and might be related to innate conditions. So even if a high-resolution service plan was chosen, a better listening experience might not be guaranteed. Consumers should be aware that listening to high-resolution music on a smart device may require an external digital to analog converter and suitable headphones to enable high-resolution sound quality. Apart from appealing to consumers with the quality of their songs, music streaming platforms would also make their pricing competitive. The standard rate for basic individual plans on the 7 platforms ranging from $48 to $58 per month. 4 of the platforms had a basic plan that include lossless and or high-resolution sound quality. Some platforms also offer lossless and high-resolution sound plan a minimum of $68 to a maximum of $116 per month, which could be 1 time higher than the basic plans. 3 platforms offer not only monthly plans, but also quarterly, half-yearly, and yearly pricing models. However, 2 of these platforms only listed most of the pricing models and other discounts offers on their website for users to choose from, while the repayment page of their mobile apps only display monthly plan options, which might not allow consumers to choose the plan that best suited their needs due to differences in information on different interfaces. Consumers will have a better idea of whether the platform service were to their likings if they could try it out before subscribing. All 7 platforms offer free trials, with 3 offering a 14-day free trial and the remaining 4 offering a standard trial period of 30 days or 1 month. However, consumers should note that the terms and conditions of 4 platforms stipulated that the service will be automatically renewed and charged after the trial period. Users who did not wish to pay must serve a termination notice before the end of the subscribing period, while the remaining 3 platforms did not have auto-renew arrangement. The Council reminds consumers to read the relevant terms and conditions of service before signing up a free trial, and to make the expiry date of the trial on their devices as a reminder for unsubscribing in future. Consumers could also listen to music on the free version offered by 3 of the platforms, but take note that the free version is different from the free trial, as some features of the former are limited. In the trial conducted by the Council, free versions show intermittent advertisement, did not provide offline payback, and offer fewer choices for sound quality. When consumers encounter technical or charging problems while using music platform services, it is important that they have timely access to customer support. The Council staff made inquiries to the customer services of each platform as a regular users at the same time on different days. One of the platforms had not responded to any email inquiries after 1 week, showing much room for improvement in its customer services. As for the hotline of another platform, it was difficult to reach out to CS offices, and the inquiry line kept going back and forth between the service hotline and the sales hotline. After undergoing unexpected turns, the Council staff eventually succeeded in canceling the subscription by sending an email. The Council urged the music streaming platforms concerned to impose the customer service promptly in order to safeguard the interests of consumers. Paying songs via music streaming services has becoming the mainstream, with some platforms containing more European and American songs in their libraries and others focus more on local music. Consumers may look at these tips. Many platforms will automatically renew subscription for users after the free trial period. If consumers do not wish to use the automatic renewal services, there are platforms that offer single purchase services plan for which the contract would be automatically terminated after the subscribing period, incurring low renewal fees. In addition, consumers should note that uninstalling the platform's application on their services do not constitute a request for termination of services. The fourth paper today is Buy Now, Pay Later, BNPL. In recent years, various banks and individual platforms have launched Buy Now, Pay Later, a newly trending financial product that claims to offer interest-free payment by installments, enticing consumers to enjoy first, pay later. Despite the appeal of this consumption mode, consumers should bear in mind that there is no such thing as a free lunch. According to the Consumer Council review of the service content and terms and conditions of BNPL platforms on the market, it was found that in the event of overdue payment, consumers need to bear various charges, whereas the account might even be suspended or terminated without being notified. Besides, a number of issues were found, such as limited customer services and support provided by the relevant platforms, lack of transparency for some terms, unclear liability between the platform and trader, disparate chargeback mechanism, etc., casting much doubt on the protection of consumer rights. The Council reminds the public that BNPL products are in reality advanced spending. Consumers should carefully examine the terms and charges involved and should not overestimate their own repayment capacity, which result in overspending. Concerned about regulatory issues for BNPL installment payment products that are not provided by banks, the Council urged non-bank BNPL service providers to apply to the company's registry for the money lender license, as well as referencing the recent guideline issued by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to banks, so as to implement consumer protection measures as soon as possible. BNPL products have become available for the small value online transaction in recent years. To use the services, consumers simply need to open an account on the BNPL platform, enter the personal information, upload proof of identity for verification, and buy a locally issued credit card or debit card. When shopping at the online or physical store of the BNPL platform's partners, the consumer can then pay for the transaction amount in installments with a designated period after collecting the goods. Generally, BNPL platforms do not require a proof of income or credit card record check, hence appealing to consumers without a fixed income to apply for the services, such as freelancers, students, housewives, unemployed individuals, etc. Due to the low threshold of BNPL product, long-term use could lead to dependence and unintended overspending. If consumers are unable to repay the bill, they might need to bear penalties due to overdue payment, while it may even affect their credit record. BNPL platforms often charge interest-free payment for installments, usually with a shorter repayment period of around 3 months. However, the Council reviewed the overdue payment terms and found that the terms vary across platforms or involve charges under various pretexts, such as deferred payment administrative charges, account reactivation handling charges, etc. The term of some platforms show that the administrative charges could be adjusted at their own discretion without any advance notice. If the consumer is unable to repay on time, the incurred charges could be quite hefty. The platforms could even commission a third party to collect their debts, as well as rejecting, suspending, or terminating the consumer's account without any reasons. Both the customer services and after-sales service of BNPL platforms have much room for improvement. In 2021 and between January to August 2022, the Council received 9 and 18 complaint cases relating to BNPL respectively. The complaints involve the traders failing to clearly explain their relationship with the BNPL platforms, As a result, the consumer might have used BNPL for their purchases without knowing that such services were provided by a third party. Besides, the Council found that many BNPL platforms operating in Hong Kong had headquarters based overseas, with some platforms only providing an email address for enquiries or complaint. After some consumers had their account frozen or wanted to cancel the transaction, they could not contact the relevant platform immediately, or only receive a reply from a chatbot. Not only were they unable to receive timely assistance, the consumer also had difficulty seeking a refund, as the liability between the platform and the traders is unclear. They could easily shift responsibility when disputes arise, reflecting lack of safeguard for consumers. Furthermore, the return and chargeback mechanisms vary among different BNPL platforms, placing consumers in a vulnerable position with questionable consumer safeguard. For example, some platforms stated that the refund would be processed only after the trader confirms and completes the goods return procedure. Before confirming by the platform, the consumer must proceed with completing the payment. Besides, requests involving refunds and returns might also need to be approved by the platforms. BNPL platforms could also utilize artificial intelligence or data analysis, ranking consumers according to information and offering different spending limits or even freezing their account. However, the decision factor would not be transparently communicated to platform users, which would be potentially unfair for consumers. Many jurisdictions around the world have commenced consultation on the regulation of BNPL products in recent years. As for Hong Kong, the Hong Kong MA issued a circular to banks on BNPL products in September this year, requiring the banks to implement a series of customer protection measures, such as assessing the applicant's credit status and taking into account the ability to repay before approving any application for BNPL products. Clearly and prominently disclosing that BNPL products are credit products to avoid creating the impression that BNPL does not entail borrowing. Disclosing relevant fees and interest charges in a clear manner, and listing out the relevant fee and interest charges in the circulation of the annualized percentage rate for customers' reference, etc. Although currently BNPL products provided by banks must comply with the HKMA guideline for personal loans product, BNPL platforms that are not operated by banks are not bound by this regulation. Besides, BNPL platforms currently do not have a standardized mode of operation. If the business of individual platform involves providing loans or uses, the platform must apply for a money lender license in accordance with the money lender's ordinance. However, the several mainstream BNPL platforms do not hold a money lender's license at present. The Council recommends BNPL platforms not operated by banks to apply for the company register for a money lender license, as well as to reference the Hong Kong MA recent guideline to banks in order to safeguard the right of consumer. The last paper for today is about veterinarian charges. Veterinarian fees are generally high in Hong Kong, with the most basic consultation costing nearly $1,000, and in case surgery is required, it could cost tens of thousands or even above. The Consumer Council received complaints about the lack of transparency in the fees charged by veterinarian services, with the fee consultation fees in some cases nearly double the amount quoted. There were also veterinary clinics that set a minimum charge for each drug item, but the receipt did not provide the relevant terms and conditions, leaving consumers in the dark. The Council reminds consumers to understand the treatment plans and charges, and check the receipts before making payments at veterinarian clinics. It's also important to communicate closely with the veterinarian surgeons, the vets, for the treatment details so that there will not be any surprise in the bills. And I would like to explain one case that you may be interested. The companion took his dog to Animal Clinic B to seek medical services. The rep recommended performing cholecystectomy and related treatments. A few days of post-operative observations in the intensive care unit was required, and the quoted fee was approximately $65,000. The companion accepted and arranged for his dog to be admitted to the clinics for surgery on the same day. He applied for discharges on the third day after the operation because there was someone at home who was medically trained to look after the dog. But this was refused by the clinic. It was not until the 7th day after surgery that the clinic agreed to discharge the dog. The total cost of the treatment was $126,183, which was nearly double to the amount quoted. The companion was shocked and recalled the animal clinic B had never contacted him to explain or seek consent for any additional charges during his dog's treatment. Therefore, he did not accept the charging arrangement and lodged a complaint with the council. Clinic B replied to the council that the companion had signed the hospitalization and surgery consent form at the time of admission. The consent form had listed the important notice and estimate cost of all possible treatments. Therefore, the companion could neither be further consulted nor notified at the time of treatment. The companion opined that even though the clinic used the consent form to justify their action, the large discrepancy between the final charge and the quoted fee was inappropriate. Despite the council's repeated conciliation, the clinic maintained its decision. The council recommended the companion to follow up through other means, such as lodging a complaint to the veterinary surgeon board. Therefore, when pets are sick, owners should not rush them to the vet. They may refer to the recommendation like, before confirming treatment for their pets, owners should communicate with the vet about the treatment plan to understand the outcome and fees. It's also important to keep in touch with the vet during the treatment to keep track of any changes in treatment methods and fees. Consumer may be required to pay a deposit to its veterinary clinic for complex treatments. Before paying, consumers should first understand the refund policy arrangement details for unused treatment fees. These are all what I want to present this morning. Thank you very much.
係，唔該晒。咁我哋而家就喺度答問嘅環節。咁首先呢，我哋會係問關於即食紫菜嘅問題嘅。咁以下嘅問題咧，綜合咗TVB 同埋明報嘅問題。咁就係關於呢個碘嘅個量嘅。咁對於成人同埋小童嚟講咧，其實每日最高可以吸取幾多碘？過多嘅話會有咩影響嘅咧？
咁咧就係每日吸取嘅量咧，就成人同埋小朋友咧係唔同嘅。咁你等我揾一揾嗰個資料先嚇。喺我哋嘅選擇熱項裏邊會有㗎啦。咁咧因為咧唔同嘅年紀咧，佢需要吸入嘅碘嘅成分咧係唔同嘅。咁譬如咧1歲至7歲嘅啦，可能佢需要嘅碘嘅每日嘅 RNI 咧就係90個微克啦。咁 UL 咧就係可能係200至300啦。咁如果成人咧，譬如14歲以上嘅一路到80歲咧，可能係個RNI 咧就120啦。咁而個 UL 咧就60嘅。咁孕婦咧就會吸多啲嘅，就係230嘅 RNI 啦。咁如果哺乳期間亦都會多，都係240嘅。咁所以即係話咧，一般簡單嚟講咧，細路仔需要碘咧係比成人少，而孕婦咧係會多啲嘅。
或者補充少少啦，就係RNI 係代表咩咧？就係講緊推薦嘅攝入量，即係話建議你每一日可以攝入幾多。但係如果講 UL 咧，就係講緊係可以話係一個叫上限。咁所以咧就好多時就係人都會有嗰個可以話叫做tolerance， 即係嗰個忍耐性啦嚇。咁所以咧就係我哋睇咧好多時咧都係會睇翻嗰個每日嗰個嘅推薦嗰個攝入量咧，就係會係比較常用啲。咁但係當然啦，就如果有時大家係食多咗一啲碘入個身體，會唔會話一過咗嗰陣時就會覺得好大件事咧？就唔係嘅，因為都有一個叫可耐受嘅最高攝入量，係有2個數值去俾我哋去參考嘅。咁所以咧就喺個碘嗰個攝入嗰度咧，就真係年紀係比較細啲嘅話咧，佢哋嘅攝入量咧係比較低啲。咁但係如果譬如話孕婦啊，或者係哺乳期嘅婦女咧，因為佢哋都有個 BB， 佢哋要照顧啦，咁所以咧佢哋嗰個每一日嘅推薦嗰個攝入量咧，就係可以去到230，同埋分別係孕婦就230，哺乳期嘅婦女咧就去到240。咁但係每一日個最高嗰個上限咧，就唔同年齡層咧就會有唔同啦。如果係1歲至到4歲左近啦，就係200呢一個微克。咁而如果去到18歲或以上，即係成年咗之後咧，最高嗰個嘅耐受最高攝入量咧，就大約去到600度。咁呢個希望可以俾大家作為一個參考。
咁如果攝取過多嘅時候，會有啲咩影響咧？
咁咧，如果攝取過多嘅話咧，就會影響我哋嘅甲狀腺嘅功能嘅，咁會令到咧甲狀腺咧就會可能我哋所謂嘅大頸泡啦，或者咧甚至係可能係會有甲狀腺嘅亢奮啦，或者叫做功能嘅亢進啦，甲狀腺功能嘅減退咯，咁甲狀腺嘅腫大嘅，咁所以咧多又唔得，咁同埋咧我哋身體唔會儲到呢個啲碘嘅，咁佢哋多咧會排咗出嚟。不過，如果我哋每一次食好多，再加埋其他嘅食物啦，我哋都講啦，譬如海產啊或者雞蛋啊，都會有碘啦。咁就小朋友咧就要注意啦，因為小朋友需要嘅碘嘅吸入量係少嘅，咁所以如果過量咧就會影響我哋甲狀腺嘅功能。
喺呢度要補充一點，就係孕婦嗰個嘅需要啦。頭先因為提到咧，孕婦係需要比較多啲，點解咧？就係因為如果係佢個碘太低嘅話咧，係有機會影響咗嗰個胎兒嗰個嘅腦部發育嗰個情況。如果胎兒腦部發育不全嘅話，大家都知道會對個 BB 真係好大影響啦。咁亦都有機會咧，就影響咗個孕婦去早產啦，或者係甚至流產嘅。咁所以咧，當孕婦去睇返相關嘅婦科嘅醫生嗰陣時，喺個營養嗰方面特別係碘咧，其實都一直都會係有個建議睇返下究竟佢哋嗰個嘅攝入量咧係需要幾多，同埋因應住佢哋嗰個飲食嘅習慣咧，係要確保咧係有足夠嘅碘咧係去支持佢哋嗰個懷孕嗰段時間嘅。
The second question is asked by RTHK English News. So would you mind repeating in English regarding the health impacts of eating too much seaweed or absorbing too much iodine?
Okay, if the people is eating too much seaweed that contain high iodine content, it will affect the thyroid function or making the thyroid dysfunction, such as goiter, hyperthyroidism, or hypothyroidism. However, if you take in too little iodine, you also have the problem because that will affect the development of the baby, and also will affect if it's a pregnant woman, it will causing them early premature birth or miscarriages. Therefore, you need to take in appropriate iodine. And iodine cannot be stored in our body, so the excess one might be released out as in the urine or as a metabolism product. So in words, iodine is needed for metabolism, and it's needed for many of our body functions. But excess iodine should be avoided. And you must remember that seaweed is quite a good snack, and people may take in more than needed, together with other food material in the diet, like eggs, seafood, and fish, etc., that might leading to excessive intake of iodine, particularly children, because children need much lower amount of iodine than adults. And so parents need to pay attention when they prepare food with seaweed for their children.
So that's why this time we have review the menu of what the daily food for the kids, and then analyze the iodine intake for children. So if you have seaweed included, obviously that will increase the level quite substantially, and you have to take note about the recommended intake and also the upper tolerable limit. So for parents to prepare the food for their kids, you have to be mindful about the intake of iodine as well.
So regarding this exceeding intake, RTHK would like to follow up that in that case, should consumers avoid eating seaweed at all, or should we be not worried at all because all such products, they passed the safety test this time?
Actually, as I just mentioned, we cannot avoid intake iodine. Iodine is very important to our body for our metabolism and other functioning, particularly in the development of children, and also for pregnant people. And therefore, we should not avoid taking in iodine. And seaweed is actually considered a health food containing minerals. The point we want to make is you have to bear in mind that avoid taking excessive amount of iodine, because there are variations in the iodine content among the samples of seaweed we tested this time. And so some seaweed samples contain high iodine, and therefore for this kind of sample, when you take it, you have to bear in mind that you might take in too much iodine together with other food materials that in your diet. Particularly for children, that's why we want the parents to pay attention to the seaweed they purchase, the amount of iodine, and also the other diets, the food material in the other diet, and then so to make sure that the children and the people is taking sufficient and correct amount of iodine, not in excess, not limited, not little, because deficiency and over intake all cause problem. Okay, therefore you have to look at the iodine amount of the seaweed, and this is also why Consumer Council would like the trader, the manufacturer, to list the iodine content in the ingredients of the packaging of the food material.
The RTHK English News would like us to put in a nutshell some advices for consumers when choosing seaweed.
Okay, the first thing is, as I mentioned, that you have to really look into the ingredients of the seaweed products. And of course, other than iodine, which are not required to list, so we really urge the trader and manufacturers to list the iodine content in the ingredient list, particularly those say that they're suitable for children, and then we have to pay attention. Other than iodine, we also mentioned that sodium, fat, and sugar intake are something we need to pay attention. Particularly sodium, because seaweed, you know where you find it is in the seawater, and so they contain salt. And also when you're doing the manufacturing, some people add the salt. Therefore, it's easy to consider as high sodium content. And you're also taking in excess sodium, you will have a blood pressure problem. And then, of course, it's also high fat content, including total fatty acids, saturated fatty acids, and trans fatty acids. So that's why when you're taking seaweed, you also need to look at the amount of fat in the ingredient. And prefer to take in the seaweed with original flavor or with less seasoning. And this is important because when they're manufacturing with seasoning and good flavor, they might add a lot of ingredients that will increase the fat and the lipid sodium content. And also, as recommended by the Hong Kong Dietitian Association, if the consumer have symptoms such as swollen thyroid suspected to be caused by excessive iodine intake, just like I mentioned, like goiter or hyperthyroidism, they should seek medical services advice as soon as possible. Moreover, if individuals with chronic kidney diseases or patients having warfarin, a type of medication to prevent blood clots, they should pay attention when they take seaweed, because the seaweed also contains vitamin K and sodium and potassium. So they should ask for the doctor's advice or dietitian's advice before consuming seaweed, if you are such kind of patients.
Mm-hmm. Allow me to just add one very simple point is, please don't use seaweed to replace vegetables, because there are some people, they have very busy lifestyle. Occasionally, they just think seaweed is also very high in fiber, and I can continue to use seaweed to replace the regular vegetables. That may not be the best way for you to absorb good, to have your diet. So don't use seaweed as plain vegetables because of all the reasons that Professor just mentioned. You need to have a more balanced diet.
最後一個關於即食紫菜問題啦，明報就問到實際上嚟講咧，咁有冇啲咩建議話成人或者小童一次過可以食幾多包咧？
嗱，我其實咧呢度有一個就正話已經解釋咗㗎啦。咁你會睇到咧，我哋就會視乎每一個樣本嘅紫菜含量嘅，每一個紫菜樣本裏邊嘅碘嘅含量嘅。咁有啲碘含量低啲嘅，咁你食多啲都唔緊要啦。但係如果啲碘含量高啲嘅咧，就要注意啦。咁你睇到咧，我哋而家用咗個例子咧，就係呢個咧就係如果一個成人，咁如果我哋用呢個碘嘅呢個紫菜咧係最高碘嘅含量，就係嚟做壽司啦或者飯團。咁我哋100克咧就會有34600嘅微克嘅碘㗎啦。咁所以即係話，如果你食一片就1.3克咧，其實你已經係攝入咗450微克嘅碘，咁係達到咧正話總博士講嘅可耐受最高攝入量75%。咁如果我哋食兩片啦，兩片好簡單，即係2嚿嘅咯。咁咧就已經係攝入咗900個微克，咁咧就係已經係我高出咗50%㗎，即係每日嘅可耐受最高攝入量。咁如果你個成人啫喎，咁細路仔我哋已經講啦，細路仔咧係需要少啲碘㗎嘛。咁所以咧，如果我哋食一個成分高嘅，每100克咧就有8570微克嘅碘啦。咁呢個係俾小朋友用㗎啦。咁我哋如果食一小包啦，即係2克，咁好少㗎咋。咁呢個就一小包啦。咁咧佢就已經攝入咗171個微克嘅碘。咁即係話咧係最高攝入量嘅85%。咁我哋食2小包啦，咁就攝入咗342個微克，咁已經係高出咗你嘅攝入量嘅71啦。咁所以即係話咧， 你食幾多咧，就真係視乎你要睇下你嗰個紫菜裏邊嘅碘有幾多啦。咁我哋今次發現咧，個好參差好大嘅，有啲多有啲少。咁所以咧就係其實最緊要就係父母咧係會知道，同埋咧唔可以咧係淨係用紫菜嚟到攝入呢個碘嘅。咁我哋記得咧係其他嘅食物咧都會有呢個碘嘅。咁所以咧我哋覺得係一個均衡飲食，就唔會係咧日日早午晚都食呢個紫菜作為一個我哋講嘅口垃圾啦，或者叫一個 snack 啦。咁呢個就係我哋俾嘅意見。咁具體資料咧就喺我哋嘅選擇熱項裏邊有邊款紫菜咧係有幾多碘。
好，跟住落嚟咧就係到有關音樂串流平台嘅問題嘅。商業電台就問到咧有4個會自動延續收費嘅平台咧，佢所列出咗話訂閱者咧要自行提出終止服務嘅呢一個條款咧，究竟容唔容易被消費者睇得到，定還是係隱藏咗察覺唔到咧？
根據我哋同事嘅實測之後咧，就發現呢4個話會自動續約嘅平台裏面咧，好大部分咧都會喺試用嗰個頁面嗰個附近嗰度咧，就係用啲比較細嘅字體咧，就係去註明嗰個條款同埋細則。咁而咧就個消費者咧就要撳入去睇，跟住先可以睇到嗰個自動續約嗰個嘅安排。咁當然啦，通常佢撳到入去呢一啲位嗰度咧，就係嗰啲字咧就會比較多。同埋咧係比較艱澀啲去理解呢一啲嘅條文嘅，咁所以咧即係消費者有時都真係要花啲時間咧去了解下究竟佢哋呢一啲條文裡面講緊啲乜嘢嘢。咁其實咧就我哋都會有發現咧，就係有某一啲嘅平台咧係有呢一啲嘅自動訂閱嗰陣時咧，佢哋咧都係會有機會，佢哋都係會列明咧係幾時開始、幾時終結呢一個試用。咁樣呢一個我哋覺得呢一個安排咧，就係對個消費者嚟講咧，係會比較個透明度會比較高啲。咁所以咧就希望大家都係會跟從呢一啲做法啦。咁但係咧其實去到頭先講緊嗰啲嘅條款同埋嗰啲細則嗰度咧，其實我哋覺得咧，即係從一個消費者嗰個嘅溝通而言咧，如果當你真係會自動續約嘅話咧，不如喺試用側邊已經係自動續約條款，係講得清清楚楚，係用一啲重點去話俾個消費者聽嘅話咧，好過就要撳到入去之後，跟住仲要睇好多字先會明白嘅話咧，咁就會比較對個消費者嚟講係辛苦咗好多啦。咁所以我哋嗰個實測之後嗰個嘅經驗就係咁樣樣。
係咁，跟住我哋落嚟咧，就係有關先買後付嘅問題嚟嘅。咁我哋一個綜合嘅問題咧，因為嚟自商台啦、Now TV 啦同埋 The Standard 咧，佢哋都係有問到呢條問題。咁我哋先用中文講咗，咁一陣我哋就再用英文再複述一次。咁就係問到咧希望就可以提供部分先買後付平台嘅投訴個案嘅細節，同埋涉及個金額係幾多嘅？
好嗱，咁今年頭嗰9個月啦，我哋收到19宗呢一個有關於先買後付嘅投訴，咁而裡面咧佔咗9宗咧，就係講緊送貨延誤嘅問題。點解會講到話送貨延誤咧？其實因為好多時咧先買後付咧都係講緊一個付款嘅方法。咁你付款嘅方法咧，個消費者一定係會透過唔同嘅平台咧，就係去買嘢嘅。咁即係話會有商戶喺度啦，亦都有呢一個先買後付嗰個付款平台喺度，係作為一個3方面嗰個關係。咁而喺呢一啲嘅情況底下咧，就會發現咧，就係好多時啲爭拗喺邊度咧？就係喺嗰個消費者佢落咗單去買一啲嘢，譬如話訂餐咁樣，呢個係一個好常見嘅例子。咁但係咧嗰個訂餐嗰陣時咧，又話我唔成功去完成嗰個交易。咁但係咧個消費者又發現咧自己係俾人去收咗錢喎。咁究竟去追邊一個我哋叫退款咧？究竟去揾翻嗰個訂餐平台啊，定係揾呢個先買後付嘅平台咧？咁但係好多時咧出現咗呢啲嘅情況咧，就會係我哋可以話叫做拋波啦。究竟邊一個平台係負責？咁但係咧就若果係投訴到呢個先買後付嗰個平台咧，就係因為好多時都揾唔到人，好多時都冇應佢。問極都唔應，又或者係咧話會退款又冇退款，咁呢一啲咧就係我哋好常見到咧，就係呢啲先買後付嗰個平台嗰個問題啦。
Can you repeat in English?
By the way， 仲有搭埋嗰個金額，其實咧因為先買後付嗰個呢啲平台咧，佢啲金額咧相對嚟講都唔會話好高嘅。咁平均嚟講咧，就大約係1000，如果用今年頭嗰9個月去計啦，就1700蚊度。咁 咁若果係用2021年咧，我哋收咗4宗投訴咧，嗰個金額咧就大約1000蚊度。因為好多時咧，啲消費者喺呢啲先買後付嘅平台買嘢咧，就嗰個金額都唔會太大，係好多時都係幾百蚊啦、千零蚊啦左緊嘅一啲嘅銀碼。咁但係咧喺呢一度咧都一定要提醒消費者咧，都真係唔好養成一個習慣，因為始終咧都係我哋叫先使未來錢。咁但係你習慣咗係好細嘅金額不斷咁樣去先買後付嘅話，3個月之後又1個月之後還分3期還嘅話咧，咁其實咧可能咧你儲下嘅話咧，就已經使咗好多錢，自己唔知道嘅。OK， 咁I repeat the answers in English. For the first 9 months, we received 19 cases of complaints. Majority of it, about 9 cases, is about product delivery, the delivery delay. And for the rest, is distributed amount price dispute, 5 cases, and miscellaneous like sales practice and also the quality of service. I have to explain the back that why that involved the delivery of goods, there's a delay. It's because Buy Now Pay Later is a payment platform. And also that always involve the merchant. So if there's dispute between the merchant and also the platform, the consumer try to look for a refund, but both sides, they are bouncing the ball to each other. That would create dispute. For example, there are some typical cases like when you order meals from a food delivery platform, but unfortunately the transaction cannot be completed. But then the consumer found out that he or she got charged. Of course, they want to have a refund. But when they seek the support from the Buy Now Pay Later platform, there's no one answer the customer service. There's quite a delay in refunding the amount, or even there's no answers, no contact. That would create a dispute from consumers. Because if the merchant and also the platform bouncing the ball to each other, but the ultimate goal of the consumer is, I haven't enjoyed the service, I want to cancel it, and also get a refund, but cannot be done so, that would create dispute. And the amount that involved is not very high. Usually Buy Now Pay Later not involving very high amount. It is about 1,700 on average for the first 9 months of this year. For last year is about $1,000.
關於投訴呢度咧，商台咧又特別又問到咧，有冇一啲投訴咧係投訴人咧喺不知情嘅情況底下被呢啲平台罰咗款嘅咧？
其實喺舊年係有嘅。我哋係收到投訴咧，嗰個投訴人咧就係好多時係去啲地方買嘢嗰陣時，因為呢一啲平台開始去做推廣咧，就叫佢當然係申請啦，開個戶口啦。咁個消費者咧就因為被嗰啲優惠所吸引咧，咁啊申請咗啦。咁但係咧後尾先知，原來係一個類似分期付款咁嘅計劃，或者係一個咁嘅付款方法。咁佢覺得其實我唔需要，亦都唔知道咁，但係咧就突然之間就自己咁樣去俾人哋因為佢唔知道啊嘛，咁可能佢就冇俾錢啦，又或者係出現咗某啲岔子啦，咁所以咧就係引起投訴嘅。咁我哋舊年咧亦都有收過投訴咧，就係講緊咧係佢明明係每一次都係定期付咗款，但係唔知點解自己俾人刪咗個賬戶，凍結咗個賬戶。咁呢一啲咧喺過往嗰陣時咧，我哋都有收過投訴。但係近期嗰啲咧，就主要係喺個交易上邊，當佢做退款又或者係某一啲優惠嗰個平台係唔可以履行嗰啲承諾嘅優惠咧，咁個消費者梗係想取消個交易咧。但係嗰啲情況咧就係商戶又話唔關佢事，跟住然後個平台咧亦都冇理佢，咁而引起咧嘅爭拗嚟嘅。
商台繼續咧係問香港咧需唔需要有規管非銀行提供嘅先買後付平台咧？又係有困唔困難咧？
其實
你哋先。
你嚟。
其實係有需要嘅。其實即係你睇下啦，依家金融管理局咧都係呢個咁嘅銀行咧已經係有咁嘅規定。咁而家越嚟越多呢啲平台咧，可能唔係同銀行掛㗎，係另外一啲平台。咁所以如果冇呢個咁嘅規定咧，甚至唔係放債人嘅話咧，咁對消費者其實個保障咧係真係好少。咁消費者咧好多都唔知道呢個係等於先使未來錢，亦都唔會諗下自己有冇能力去償還。 亦都唔知道咧，如果我哋還唔到嘅時候咧，有咩罰款？咁好多呢啲都唔係好清晰嘅條款咯。咁如果你睇翻其他外國咧，譬如韓國啊、澳洲咧，同埋英國咧，都會已經開始咧考慮咧係將啲先買後付嘅平台咧係列入一個金融產品嘅一個規管上邊嘅。咁或者我等阿 CE 再補充多啲。
其實咧就呢一度咧就係牽涉到好多好細緻嘅法律嘅問題啦。因為咧呢一啲嘅先買後付嘅平台咧，佢哋就話自己根本就唔係提供一個貸款，又或者係融資，或者係信用嗰個嘅額度。佢哋咧純粹係提供一個付款嘅服務啦。咁若果係遲咗付款，咁我哋咪收一個手續費咯。咁呢啲未必算係一個借貸嗰個嘅情況。咁但係咧，因為佢哋嗰個商業模式咧係幾唔統一咧，咁所以究竟佢哋係需唔需要申請呢個放債人牌照咧？咁其實咧都真係可以話係有所爭拗。咁但係咧，我哋都認為咧，既然你喺香港係做得呢一個提供呢一個服務啦，而家香港大約係有9個呢一啲平台啦，咁而裡面咧有3個咧就係銀行嚟嘅，咁有剩嗰啲咧就係有一個咧就應該係攞咗呢一個放債人嘅牌照，但係咧亦都係有幾個咧就係冇攞呢一個放債人嗰個嘅牌照嘅。咁所以咧就喺呢啲大前提底下，其實對個消費者嘅保障嚟講咧係真係比較薄弱，特別係冇放債人牌照嗰啲情況。個原因咧就係究竟出現咗問題嗰陣時係有乜嘢法律去監管咧？咁似乎就而家暫時係未有一啲係好清晰嘅法律去監管啦。咁所以我哋都覺得咧就係第一就係若果係做呢一個先買後付嗰個嘅服務呢啲嘅業務嘅話咧，我哋都覺得應該咧，即係其實佢個性質自己本身咧，都某程度上係一個借貸。咁所以咧都應該係要申請翻呢一個放債人牌照嘅。咁當然個別平台可能自己去認為自己係唔需要嘅呢一個情況，咁啊真係好視乎佢個商業模式同埋一啲法律上邊嗰個嘅理據啦。咁始終咧呢度係比較複雜啲咧，咁我可以提供到嘅資料大致上係咁多。
或者我補充少少啦，正話我講其實英國、韓國、南韓咧都有呢啲例子嘅。咁譬如英國嚟講咧，佢哋其實就喺今年6月嘅時候咧，亦都發表咗呢個諮詢報告嘅。咁計劃咧係監管呢個先買後付。咁咧其實最重要就係要求呢啲平台咧係預先檢視咗呢啲消費者嘅還款能力，先至可以批出貸款。咁就確保咗呢個佢嘅廣告嘅公平性、清晰同埋冇誤導嘅成分。因為好多人以為咧係唔使還錢嘅，咁就變咗咧係過度嘅消費。咁所以咧喺呢個大原則嚟講咧，其實都係希望嗰啲商家咧係提供適當嘅同埋透明度同埋呢個公平性，俾消費者咧有所選擇，俾消費者咧知道呢個風險，又保證呢個消費者嘅權益。咁所以佢哋咧就比較具體啲咧，會諮詢就係關於售前嘅階段啊、銷售階段啊同埋售後嘅階段啦，都對消費者有所保障。而南韓咧亦都係差唔多一樣啦，都係一個保障法嚟嘅。咁就主要咧係提高呢個透明度啦，譬如個商務嘅交易過程啦，郵購呢啲產品啦，究竟係咪公平啦？咁就同英國有啲相似嘅。咁所以我哋覺得咧，香港咧越嚟越多人會做呢個先買後付，亦都係呢個網上平台好多。咁所以呢個監管咧係需要咧開始考慮點樣去做出嚟嘅。
係咁跟Now TV 嘅問題嘅，想問下咧，呢啲平台嘅服務同信用卡相比咧，係對客戶或者消費者啦嚇構成有啲咩嘅消費風險咧？
其實呢個咧同呢個信用卡咧係有少少唔同嘅，因為信用卡咧其實大家都會知道咧，當你申請信用卡嘅時候咧，其實啲銀行咧就會考慮你嗰個還款能力，你嗰個信貸額度，然之後先至會咧批出呢一樣嘢㗎。咁所以咧變咗大部分嘅信用卡咧都係銀行發卡，咁而咧先買後付咧其實係好多唔同嘅平台，有啲根本就唔係銀行嘅平台啦。咁跟住咧你個供款嘅期數咧亦都唔同嘅，譬如你還唔到錢，你點樣供咧？咁銀行嘅信用卡咧有啲係可以長達60期，但係呢啲先買後付咧好多時都係3期或者3個月左右嘅啫。咁然之後利息啦，或者手續費咧就視乎銀行而定啦。咁咧就係譬如呢個先買後付咧，可能未有呢個分期利息或者手續費，唔係好清晰。咁預期還款嘅手續費咧亦都各自有不同。咁金額啊，大部分人都知道嘅。先買後付依家嚟講咧，都係比較適用於少數嘅，即係小額嘅交易。而信用卡咧就會睇下你係咩嘢卡主啦，咁你個信用額度係幾多啦。咁可能一般嚟講可能比較高啲。 咁而係簽帳類別啦，咁信用卡咧就一般零售都可以接受，但係先買後付咧，你就要同指定嘅合作商戶咧嚟到先至可以做嘅，即係有啲如果冇同佢掛鈎咧，你就唔可以用呢個啦。咁最後一個就係對於個人嘅信貸影響啦。咁如果先信用卡咧，就一定會係睇你個信貸情形，咁會查閲你嘅信貸報告，咁然之後先會批張卡俾你，同埋批個額度嘅。咁但係先買後付嘅好處咧，就係佢都唔理你嘅信貸記錄嘅，同埋唔影響佢哋。咁所以咧好多時咧就係有啲譬如話無業嘅人啦，或者家庭主婦或者學生啦，或者嗰啲所謂自由工作者啦，咁佢都冇規定嘅收入嘅時候咧，咁銀行可能唔發卡俾你，信用卡唔發。但係先買後付平台咧，可能會俾你做咗呢樣嘢，咁所以導致你以為咧就係暫時唔使俾錢先好開心，但係其實咧之後嘅結果咧，你可能要慢慢注意啦。
我想再補充一點咧，就係先買後付平台咧，而家香港有9個。頭先我有提到咧，就有3個咧就係銀行嘅，有2個係虛擬銀行啦，一個咧就係一個傳統嘅銀行，跟住其他嗰啲咧就唔係屬於銀行嘅，即係非銀行嘅。咁而係銀行嗰個嘅先買後付嗰個嘅宣傳同埋推廣咧，金管局咧係有一個好清楚嘅指引咧，就係要求佢哋咧就係喺呢一啲嘅推廣上邊咧係要寫清楚咧係一個信貸嘅產品。就係避免咧就塑造咧先買後付咧就唔等於借錢嗰個觀念。咁另外咧就係嗰個相關嘅費用同埋利息啦，亦都係一定要清清楚楚咧就係話俾個消費者聽。如果佢話係標榜係免息嘅先買後付咧，都一定要註明咧係其他嘅收費，加埋咧就係大家成日都聽到㗎啦，借定唔借還得到先好借教育字句啦，同埋咧就係萬一個客戶咧係過期還款嘅話咧，點樣影響佢嗰個信貸記錄咧，都係應該要講清楚俾個消費者聽嘅。咁所以咧，如果喺銀行嗰方面嗰個嘅先買後付平台咧，就係需要符合呢一個金管局嘅指引。但係如果唔係銀行嘅平台咧，就冇呢一啲嘅嗰個嘅規管嘅。咁所以咧就大家消費者真係就算你好想用一個先買後付嗰個嘅平台嘅服務嘅話咧，都一定要留意翻自己嗰個消保權益。咁另外咧就係要分清楚銀行同埋非銀行嘅平台咧，佢哋喺嗰個保障嗰方面嘅分別。
The Hong Kong IBC has similar questions regarding the comparison between buy now, pay later and credit card, as well as the accountability of the buy now, pay later platform on virtual and physical banks. Would you mind repeating in English?
Okay, for the credit card issued by the bank, usually let's say the duration that you need to repay the money you spend, the bank issued a credit card, usually they have a longer repayment period, probably 60 times. And then for the buy now, pay later, BNPL, usually there are 3 terms that you have to pay back the money. And also for the interest rate and also the administrative cost, usually within the period of you repay the money, that's nothing for the BNPL platform. But usually for the bank, they will look at your credit limit, and then the bank will decide how many times you can be interest-free repayment. And of course, if you cannot repay it according to the time, and of course you need to pay extra money, such as the administrative cost, and that will vary from credit card to credit card, from bank to bank. Usually it will be about $130 to $350. Of course, there are some banks, they will waive this kind of extra cost for the administrative charges. For the BNPL platform, usually they will have this administrative charges if you cannot repay back accordingly with the time. And usually the money is about $30 to $175 per each transaction. It varies from platform to platform. And of course, the money allowed for the transaction each time, for the BNPL usually it's a small amount of transaction, so it's not a big sum of money. But for the credit card, it depends on who you are, and the owner of the credit card, your credit limit and the credit things will affect the maximum limits that you can use for this payment. And of course, for the BNPL, usually you have to be associated with certain merchandiser or the traders. Not every retail will accept BNPL, so they have a pre-arrangement before that. But for credit card, usually most of the retail will accept this one. And of course, as I mentioned before, the bank issue credit card, they will look at your credit limit, the ability of you to repay the money you spent. And so they may not issue the credit card if your credit limit is no good or you have no routine or no regular income. But for BNPL, usually you can. They don't. Most of them, except those issued by bank. The other platform, they don't bother about your credit limit or your credibility. And then so it's very good for people that you don't have regular income, like the freelancers, housewife, student, or people jobless, and they think they can enjoy, buy things first and pay later. But that will be a danger that you might overspending, and then at the time you cannot repay back. You will need to pay the extra charges for administration and also the extra charges because you cannot repay according to time. And so that's something people need to pay attention for the BNPL. But of course, if the BNPL is issued by bank, including virtual bank, they have to follow the regulation from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. And so they do have need to look at your credit limit and your credibility to issue the BNPL for you.
跟住落嚟咧，我哋係到獸醫服務收費嘅投訴嘅問題嘅。咁商台同埋東方咧都有問到，即係首9個月嘅相關嘅投訴，比去年同期咧升咗多咗成倍嘅。咁原因喺邊度？係涉及啲咩嘅類別嘅咧？
喺頭呢9個月裏面咧，我哋已經收咗成28宗嘅投訴，比起舊年同期就升1倍啦。咁而嗰個銀碼上邊咧就喺頭嗰9個月咧，其實都唔細嘅，喺28宗裏面都有成156000蚊。咁而去年嗰14宗咧亦都唔細，係11萬左緊。咁平均嚟講咧就係今年頭嗰9個月就係5600蚊啦。咁而咧喺去年嗰頭嗰9個月咧就係7800蚊嘅平均嚟講。咁其實咧主要嘅投訴嘅類別係啲咩咧？就係全部都係絕大部分啦嚇，有成16宗咧係有關於呢一個價格同埋收費嗰個爭拗。咁一陣間我可以再多講多少少細節俾大家聽。另外有6宗咧就係講緊個服務質素，講係譬如話係個態度啊嚇，又或者係啲講解啊嗰方面係唔清楚呢一方面嘅投訴。咁但係喺嗰個收費嗰個爭拗嗰方面咧，咁主要咧就係今次其實幾個例子咧都係講緊收費嗰方面。咁但係咧好多時啲消費者咧就譬如話帶到隻寵物去到診所又或者醫院嗰陣時咧，其實都已經心急如焚。咁但係咧，譬如話裡面咧原來有好多隱藏嘅費用，之前冇講清楚。譬如話簡單到有一個個案咧，就係諗住攞隻貓咧就要做一個絕育手術。咁但係咧佢睇一睇隻貓之後咧出嚟咧就係佢哋話咧就係若果係做絕育手術嘅話咧，咁如果係有胚胎咧就要再收4500蚊。咁個消費者就決定唔做啦。但係點知咧，即係諗住可以走得啦。咁但係咧，佢都話唔得，你臨走前都要俾翻400蚊嘅抽血費。咁呢一樣嘢咧，消費者就會覺得，咦？點解你之前我淨係俾隻貓你睇一睇啫？咁點解會收呢個抽血費咧？咁呢一個係一個例子啦。咁另外咧，亦都係有一啲嘅例子咧，就係呢一個抗疫費。呢一樣嘢都係比較新鮮啲，就係當喺疫情嗰陣時比較嚴峻嘅期間咧，係我哋亦都有投訴咧，就係有一啲嘅獸醫嘅醫院咧，就係要收呢個抗疫費，即係話你每去一次嗰陣時咧，就要收你100蚊嘅抗疫費。咁但係你入到去嗰陣時，根本係你唔會同嗰個同你個寵物一齊。純粹係等，又或者係當佢喺治療期間，即係喺留院期間嗰陣時咧，根本係見唔到隻寵物嘅。咁點解你要收我呢一個我哋叫防疫費咧？咁啲消費者咧亦都覺得係好難接受啦。咁另外咧就係亦都係我哋真係收到個案咧，亦都係話之前其實都應該要報價啦，係咪？咁但係咧就係一路喺度診治，譬如話係純粹洗傷口嗰陣時，突然之間就係幫佢洗晒所有傷口，又或者係搽晒所有嘅藥膏。咁但係之前咧亦都係冇話俾佢聽，原來啲藥膏同埋呢一個嗰啲消炎水啦嚇個價錢係點？咁亦都冇任何徵詢。咁但係咧最大嘅問題咧就係當佢問點解唔話俾佢聽嗰陣時咧，嗰個姑娘係會話俾佢聽 個護士啦唔會喺呢啲地方我哋會報價俾你聽嘅喎，咁樣。咁所以咧就喺呢一方面咧，亦都係會引起唔同嘅爭拗。咁有啲個案，譬如話個手術費係突然之間係過咗一倍啊，又或者係嗰啲藥物嘅費用點樣去寫啊，同嗰張單據係唔同啊，呢一啲咧都會引起個消費者咧嗰個嘅爭議嘅。咁呢一啲咧就係睇到咧係有關於獸醫嗰方面嗰個嘅投訴啦。咁我諗咧就傳媒亦都會係有興趣，咁即係法例上邊可唔可以管多啲，又可以點做咧咁？咁其實咧，獸醫嘅服務質素同埋收費咧，係受呢一個獸醫註冊條例同埋呢個註冊獸醫實務守則咧所監管嘅。咁而亦都係受到呢個獸醫管理局咧所管轄。不論佢哋嘅執業註冊啦、註冊獸醫嘅專業活動啦，同埋紀律嘅監管咧，都係呢一個獸醫管理局咧就去負責嘅。咁而咧喺嗰個治療同埋收費嗰方面咧，實務守則咧亦都係定明咗咧，獸醫咧就應該向客戶提供可採取最佳嘅治療同埋手術方案。但係咧，若果係一般嘅基本方案咧，就亦都可能有機會咧係符合到客戶嗰個要求嘅。但係喺治療之前咧，獸醫咧就應該要同個客戶咧詳細討論各種可採取嘅方案嘅預期結果同埋嗰個估算嗰個嘅費用，因為唔係個個客戶都可以俾得起錢去做最貴嘅治療。最緊要係一個最有效同埋因應住嗰個客戶嗰方面嗰個負擔能力啦，去決定嗰個方案嘅。咁而咧就係獸醫咧，亦都係應該向客戶或者準客戶咧提供有關於診症、例行化驗同埋例行程序一般嘅費用同埋收費一覽表。咁獸醫嘅收費咧，亦都唔可以出現價格過高、差別待遇、時高時低或者係部分減費減收嗰啲情況。咁而咧喺客戶提出個要求嗰陣時咧，獸醫咧都應該係要提供列明每項收費嗰個嘅帳目嘅。咁呢一個咧就係喺而家嗰個嘅實務守則嗰方面嗰個嘅需求。咁所以咧我哋睇到咧，如果係喺28宗嘅投訴個案裡面有咁多係有關於收費呢一方面咧，係明顯地咧就一係溝通上邊係做得唔好啦，又或者咧喺嗰個展示相關嘅收費嗰一覽表嗰方面咧可能就未必係做得咁好，令到個消費者咧係睇唔到，又或者係唔清楚嘅情況會出現咗。咁我係覺得咧不論係呢一啲嘅診所或者係醫院啦，都應該喺呢一方面咧係要進行一個要有所改善咯。
關於投訴個案第二嗰個咧，嗰個膽囊切除手術嗰個TVB 咧就問咧最後咧，因為個診所咧就堅持佢個做法就維持不變，咁消委會咧就建議投訴人咧去循其他嘅途徑去跟進嘅。咁想問下喺呢一個個案入邊咧，係咪因為啲法規嘅規管嘅問題，所以跟進唔到，要用第啲方法咧？
其實主要就係我哋嗰個調停嗰方面嘅工作啦，因為我哋唔係一個調解專業嘅調解嗰方面嘅機構啦，咁同埋咧就係消費者，若果即係喺我哋嘅工作裏面咧，若果我哋盡我哋嘅能力去調停嘅話，都調停唔到嘅話咧，咁我哋只可以建議呢個消費者咧係循一個另外一啲渠道咧去作出相關嘅投訴。咁而因為獸醫管理局咧就係頭先我解説啦，佢哋係監管咗呢一個獸醫管理嗰個嘅條例同埋有關嘅實務守則。咁所以咧我哋覺得，若果係個消費者對嗰個嘅獸醫診所係不滿嘅話，不論喺佢哋嗰個收費又或者係嗰個銷售操守嗰方面出現問題嘅話咧，都應該係去返呢個獸醫管理局去作出相關嘅投訴嘅。
好，咁跟住落嚟咧，我哋就會去到有關牙膏嘅問題嘅，咁就都相當多嘅傳媒咧，對於呢個酸鹼度咧係好有興趣嘅，咁所以我跟住落嚟呢個嚟緊幾個問題咧，都係綜合咗啲媒體嘅問題嘅。咁關於有幾隻兒童嘅牙膏咧，嗰個酸鹼度咧就係低過即係過低啦，就唔符合內地嘅標準。咁想問下有啲咩影響啦？咁但係又有生產商就話咧pH呢個酸鹼值較低咧，就可以用一個偏酸嘅環境去抑制細菌生長。咁係唔係嘅咧？究竟應該點樣點樣即係市民應該點做咧？
好嗱，其實咧個法規咧，中國嘅法規咧就規定咧牙膏嘅酸鹼值咧就要喺 pH 5.5至10.5中間。咁咧太低嘅 pH 值咧，即係譬如低過5.5啦，好似我哋今次揾到一啲咧真係好低嘅。咁有咩唔好處咧？其實 會令到口腔呢個酸性環境。咁酸性環境咧其實係有利細菌生長，所以有啲生產商話不利細菌生長呢個唔啱嘅。酸性環境咧係有利細菌生長，亦都會咧令到我哋有所謂脫礦嘅現象，即係話咧牙齒裏邊嘅鈣質咧會慢慢丟失咗。咁所以如果我哋用呢個咁嘅酸性嘅牙膏咧，就會令到我哋嘅口腔就酸性，咁跟住咧就會溶化咗咧我哋嗰啲鈣同埋個琺瑯質嘅，咁所以咧就會對個牙齒咧係造成一個好嚴重嘅影響。咁如果我哋再平時刷牙又好大力啦，或者有啲比較硬嘅牙刷去刷，再加埋酸性嘅牙膏咧，就會令到我哋嘅牙齒咧個表面弱化，即係琺瑯質咧就會流失啦。咁嘅時候咧就會令到有啲牙齒嘅磨損嘅。咁所以變咗咧，如果係酸性強嘅牙膏咧，尤其是對於小朋友嚟講咧，其實更加要注意咧，就係好麻煩。咁因為咧酸咧係對我哋嘅牙齒同埋口腔咧都係唔好嘅。咁所以點解有個規管咧，就唔可以過酸嘅一個牙膏。
咁關於嗰幾款酸鹼值過酸嘅過低嘅牙膏咧，咁消委會咧就交咗俾海關跟進。咁商台就問下，即係點解呢個case 要交俾海關跟進咧？咁同埋亦都會唔會建議消費者咧即係停用呢啲產品咧？
點解我哋交俾海關咧？主要因為咧就係消費品安全條例嗰個問題嘅。咁因為若果係香港而家係雖然話冇一個特定對呢一個牙膏上邊咧係有一個指定法例上邊嗰個嘅要求，但係若果佢嗰個嘅安全性係成疑嘅話咧，咁我哋都一定會交翻俾海關跟進嘅。譬如話佢啲致敏物料啊，或者係酸鹼值啊等等。咁所以咧就係我哋係根據呢一個消費品安全條例咧係交俾海關去跟進嘅，因為喺呢一個一般安全規定嚟講咧，即係話相關嘅製造商啦、進口商啦同埋供應商咧係有責任咧係確保佢供應嘅消費品咧係達到一個合理嘅安全嘅程度。咁而呢一個消費品安全規例咧，就係亦都有提到咧，就係凡消費品同埋佢嘅包裝標記咧，都一定要喺嗰個消費品上邊咧係譬如話點樣儲存啊、點樣用啊、點樣處置啊嗰啲警告嘅字句咧，就應該係以中文、英文雙語去表達。咁當然啦，因為喺而家嘅法例裏面咧，就係冇就牙膏嘅成分同埋標籤嘅資料咧係設定一個規範嘅。咁喺呢一度咧，我哋都會倡議啦。首先第一，就算係而家法例上面未有要求嘅話咧，其實咧牙膏裡面嘅成分咧，其實對唔同嘅人士每一日使用早晚用一次嚟講咧，都係非常之重要嘅資訊。咁所以咧，我哋都好希望咧廠商咧佢哋都係披露翻相關嗰個嘅資料。特別係譬如話容易致敏頭先我哋講緊嗰兩種嘅致敏物嘅話，咁有啲人真係會一路刷牙嗰陣時係會掂到自己嗰個皮膚噶嘛，咁但係如果佢真係容易致敏嘅話咧，係會令到口腔潰爛或者係發炎嘅話咧，大家都唔想。咁所以咧喺嗰個標籤嗰個披露嗰方面咧佢一個成分嗰個披露嗰方面咧，我哋覺得咧就廠商咧係應該係盡快係主動去提供多啲資料俾個消費者。咁當然喺個法例上邊需唔需要就住牙膏去做一啲特定嘅要求咧？咁我哋覺得亦都係要密切嘅監察。咁亦都睇翻咧唔同嘅產品佢哋嗰個嘅情況咧，就係去適時咧去做翻一個檢視嘅。
或者我再補充少少酸鹼值咧，大家都有興趣。或者大家見到咧，我哋其實2014年咧消委會做過啲牙膏測試嘅。咁當時咧就我哋做咗26款普通牙膏、9款兒童牙膏咧，其實全部咧佢嘅酸鹼值咧符合內地嘅標準，即係冇太酸。咁但係今次咧，我哋嘅測試裏邊有3款嘅兒童牙膏嘅酸鹼值咧係太低，係未符合呢個內地標準。咁至於係咪要停用咧，就視乎咧。如果係兒童嘅話咧，你對兒童嘅愛惜有幾多啦？因為即係一早一晚都會用，咁同埋細路仔咧又唔係好識將啲牙膏或者啲泡沫咧吐翻出嚟，咁所以咧就會考慮下咧，就係可唔可以需要繼續用啦。咁另外咧，正話我都講咧，如果酸性其實一個最大嘅原因咧，就會令到我哋啲鈣流失，令到嗰啲琺瑯質咧會越嚟越少啦，咁會磨損。咁但係如果你嗰啲牙膏本身咧氟又偏低嘅話咧，咁啊，仲更加要小心啲啦，因為氟咧其實可以保護呢個牙齒噶嘛，保護呢個琺瑯質。咁所以你講個牙膏又酸性，氟又好低，咁嘅時候咧，即係話佢都冇咗個保護功能啦。咁啊，對牙酸又對牙齒有影響啦。咁所以如果呢類嘅牙膏咧，咁你就家長咧就要自己去決定啦，係咪要停用啦？ 咁但係當然未來你買嘅時候咧，就盡量要注意呢個 pH 值啦，就唔好買一啲酸性嘅或者氟含量較低嘅一啲牙膏。
The RTHK English News has similar questions. So the question is, how serious is the case now that it's handed over to the customs? Is there a need to recall the toothpaste products?
Okay, for the toothpaste for the children that has a pH value lower than 5.5, some are actually lower than 5. And for those, as we know, the acidic environment is good for the bacterial growth, and so it's no good to the health of the oral cavity. And more than that, acidic pH in the toothpaste will easily dissolve the calcium and affect the enamel, and so it will affect the healthiness of the teeth. So if the toothpaste got low pH value, and particularly if it also contains no fluoride content, because fluoride is actually a chemical that can help to protect our enamel and make our teeth stronger. And so if the toothpaste contains low pH and also low fluoride, and that is something the parents need to pay attention to the children. Particularly, you want the children to brush the teeth twice a day, early in the morning and before going to bed. And therefore, they will actually might easily get very acidic environment in the oral cavity and teeth. And moreover, for the children that are very young or below 3 years old, or only 6 months old when the first teeth come out, they might not know how to spill out the toothpaste or the foam that formed during the brushing of teeth. And they may easily swallow something very acidic, which is not very good to the health. So I would say this is something the parents need to consider. And this is exactly why we pass the product and our outcome to, actually our test outcome to service department, and then to follow up. And they're actually doing the testing at the moment, and they will have follow-up action if they find our test result is reliable.
Yeah, so to answer the question shortly is whether the product has to be recalled is subject to the outcome of the independent investigation by the Customs and Excise Department. But on the other hand, for parents, right now if you're using those products, because the pH level is below the required standard from the mainland, we don't recommend you continue using it, frankly speaking. Reason being is if you are brushing it every day with a highly acidic product, it will have the effect in the long run to affect the teeth, of your children. So even if it is not the product recall because it's pending for the outcome, but still, if you have a choice, it's better to offer a more safer choice to your kids.
I also would like to draw attention is that we do the same test in 2014. And then actually at that time, we also test about 35 toothpaste with 26 a common one and 9 for children. And all these products, they do not exceed the mainland standard. That means they follow the mainland standard. The pH value is within the good range. And no product has got pH lower than 5.5. But unfortunately, this time we got 3 products from the children toothpaste have low pH. And some could be as low as 3.8, which is far lower than the 5.5 standard. And so if the toothpaste is at this low acidic pH, you better think twice before you let your children use it.
The HKIBC would like to know why the Council referenced mainland standards.
The reasons why is one concept have to explain first is different standards will have different requirements on different possible harmful substance or maybe ingredients. So for toothpaste, there's no universal standard. Right now, what we are referencing is the key standards available globally for different items to test. So that's why for the mainland and the US and EU, they have the requirements about the fluoride content of in a toothpaste. And EU and also the mainland also have the acidic level. That means the pH level. The heavy metals, there are specific requirements about it. And also for the EU, it has the requirements about harmful substance. And Hong Kong, we have the requirements on the fluoride. So the reason why we make reference to so many different standards and try to embrace all the key perimeters that are required to be tested to safeguard the interests of consumers. So that's why this time we refer to the GB standard, that means the mainland standard, and also the EU one for the allergic fragrance, and also triclosan, and also amino proic acid. So that's why we select different items from different standards for the testing.
明報嘅問題，關於呢個丁香油酚同埋檸檬烯咧嘅含量咧，究竟要去到咩嘅程度咧，先至會令到人咧有嚴重嘅敏感反應嘅咧？
其實呢個咧就會視乎唔同嘅人，因為呢兩個都係致敏物質嚟嘅。咁有啲人咧就係容易啲敏感，有啲人係冇對呢個物質係冇影響㗎。咁所以即係話咧，就唔同嘅人咧，佢對於呢個致敏物質咧嗰個感受性咧係唔一樣㗎。咁所以我哋只係話咧，如果你有致敏物質喺度嘅時候，而又超標咧，係超過呢個歐盟嘅標準咧，其實係需要喺呢個嘅指標，即係 label 上面啦，或者我哋標籤上面咧係寫清楚先得㗎。咁譬如話咧，我哋會睇到咧其實嗰個歐盟嘅標準咧就有個上限嘅。咁個上限咧就喺我哋嘅選擇熱項裏邊咧係已經係有列咗出嚟㗎啦。咁或者我睇翻選擇熱項咧，就係根據呢個內地嘅同埋佢嘅歐盟咧就會有呢個標準，我哋睇啦嗱，6款嘅我哋檢出丁香油酚就由0.002至0.013。咁咧歐盟就係話咧，如果你超過某一個成分咧，就需要列明喺個標籤上面嘅啫。咁所以即係話咧，冇一個咩最高標準或者最大嘅抗受性係邊度，因為真係因人而異嘅。不過如果你標出咗佢嘅標準咧，你就需要喺個標籤上面寫出嚟嘅得。咁所以咧，我哋就會話俾你聽咧，就係我哋發現咗咧，有一種嘅兒童牙膏咧，佢嘅丁香酚油咧係0.013，咁係超咗歐盟咧化妝品法規上面標示致敏香料嘅上限。咁但係咧，佢又冇擺出嚟喺個標籤上邊喎。咁檸檬烯一樣啦，我哋發現咗咧，佢嘅檢出量係0.001至0.1，但係其中2款嘅兒童牙膏同埋3款嘅普通牙膏咧，佢係超出歐盟法規標示嘅上限。咁但係咧3款裏邊咧，亦都冇標示有檸檬烯喎。咁即係話，如果我對呢啲致敏物質冇反應嘅人冇所謂，但係如果我對呢啲致敏物質係反應嘅話咧，我又唔知，仲喺度用呢個牙膏，咁就有機會咧可以導致嚴重嘅過敏反應啦，就包括我哋所謂咧接觸性嘅皮膚炎啊，或者口腔潰爛。咁所以點解會要求咧嗰啲生產商咧係要將呢啲致敏物質咧係成分寫咗上去，尤其是超過歐盟嘅標準。咁唔超嘅你唔需要寫啦，因為唔會好大嘅問題。但係超過歐盟標準你又唔寫咧，咁導致消費者咧就誤導咗，咁佢買咗一啲咧係有致敏物質，而我又自己對致敏係好非常之反應大嘅話咧，咁咪有個好大嘅後遺症。咁所以點解話我哋發覺佢唔標示出嚟咧係一個問題嚟㗎。
咁跟住就到關於重金屬嘅問題嘅。咁明報就問到咧重金屬物質咧嘅攝取量咧要去到咩嘅程度先至會對身體有不良嘅反應咧？嬰幼兒嚟講會唔會係較容易吸收重金屬嘅咧？
好啦，咁仲有我哋今次咧牙膏裏邊咧，其實驗到最關鍵嘅重金屬咧就係無機砷啦，同埋呢個鉛嘅含量。咁咧其中佢嘅成分咧好似唔高嘅，即係喺一個範圍裏邊嘅。因為譬如按照內地嘅規限咧，就係每公斤咧就係2毫克嘅砷先至叫超標。咁我哋今次驗出嘅咧就係每公斤咧得0.088至0.29，所以你話相差好遠啦，係咪？即係個標準係2毫克，我哋驗咗最高個都係0.2毫克。咁同樣鉛又係嘅，內地嘅標準咧每公係10毫克嘅上限。咁我哋今次驗到嘅26款樣本有鉛嘅咧就係0.052至0.80毫克，咁都係爭好遠。咁但係大家要注意咧，重金屬咧，尤其是鉛咧，就可以喺身體裏邊積聚㗎。咁咧就會慢慢越嚟越多啦。咁越嚟越多嘅時候咧，就對健康咧就會有影響㗎。咁譬如話，我哋如果長期攝入無機砷啦，就有機會導致咗外周血管嘅疾病啦、心血管疾病或者高血壓㗎。鉛咧係更加麻煩，因為我哋攝入咗之後咧就會累積，咁尤其對兒童咧嘅智力發展同埋神經嘅發展咧會有影響。所以如果佢變咗慢慢接觸就變慢性接觸鉛啦，就可以令到咧兒童嘅智力發展受影響啦。 咁成人咧亦都會令到我哋嘅血壓咧嘅收縮壓咧係提高，即係有高血壓嘅可能性啦。咁所以大部分嘅人咧或者醫生都會話咧，盡量少接觸或者吸入呢啲含鉛嘅物質或者無機砷嘅物質嘅。咁所以當我哋發現咧呢啲樣款，尤其是係俾兒童用嘅，咁記住咧，因為兒童咧我正話都講啦。尤其是3歲以下咧，即係未必咧掠翻啲牙膏出嚟或者個泡沫出嚟嘅。咁所以嘅時候咧，就會懸埋啲牙膏同埋啲泡沫吞咗落個肚度。咁即係話佢攝入嗰個鉛同埋無機砷咧，係會比大人咧係更加多。咁同埋咧，兒童我都話啦，佢發育期間啊嘛。咁所以如果佢鉛係對佢嘅智力發展有影響嘅，咁咪對個兒童嘅影響更加大咯。咁所以變咗呢啲重金屬咧，雖然冇超標，但係我哋都要注意咧長期攝入嘅問題。有累積嘅問題，咁所以最好咧就係選用啲牙膏咧係不含呢啲重金屬。
又或者係啷口嗰陣時要啷得
或者父母要睇住嗰啲小朋友去啷口嘅時候就教佢咧要將啲牙膏啊同埋泡沫掠翻出嚟，然之後再用清水啷翻個口啦，就唔好咧不自覺地吞咗落去。咁所以有啲水果味嘅牙膏咧，其實就仲要小心啲，因為嗰啲咧就好好食啦，咁啲小朋友咧不自覺地咧就會吞咗落肚。
A similar question was asked by the RTHK English channel. So I just repeat the question. How does the intake of heavy metals affect health?
Okay, the current test revealed the content of heavy metals, and particularly arsenic and lead. And then arsenic was detected in a number of samples, but the content is low. Actually, it's ranging only from 0.088 to 0.29 milligram per kilogram, which is much lower than the mainland standard limit, upper limit, which is 2 milligram per kilogram. Similarly, lead was determined or detected in 26 models, and the level was also low, which is only 0.052 to 0.8 milligram per kilogram. It's also far lower than the mainland standard of the upper limit of 10 milligram per kilogram. However, we have to pay attention is, although this heavy metal is low in the toothpaste, but it can be accumulated in our body or inside the human body. And particularly like lead, they will be accumulate. Therefore, after a prolonged period of exposure to arsenic or lead, it may cause health problems. For example, like arsenic, it may cause peripheral vascular diseases, cardiovascular diseases, or even high blood pressure. And for lead, it actually affects more because they will affect the children's cognitive development. So when they develop, they will have problems. And then for the adults, they will affect our systolic blood pressure, and so causing a high blood pressure problem. So people always advise, the doctor and the World Health Organization always advise to minimize intake any substance containing lead or heavy metals. And of course, in the sample, particularly for children, because the children, we have seen that a lot of bottles, 12 out of 13 has trace amount of these heavy metals, and particularly those are used for infants or children aged below 3. As remember that we say for children below 3 or infants, they don't know how to fill out the toothpaste or the foam that's produced during the brushing of teeth. And so they easily throw all the things into the body. So that means if the toothpaste contains high lead or arsenic, they might intake the lead arsenic into their body. And prolonged accumulation is very bad for children's development. And therefore, we have to pay attention on these particular issues, even though the concentration itself is low. But remember, prolonged exposure, accumulative problem of heavy metals in our body.
So would there be any advice that you can give to parents when they select toothpaste for kids?
Okay, first they must read the label or the ingredients on the packages or on the toothpaste itself. And then so try to not buy any product that contains lead or arsenic. And then second, particularly for children below 3 or infants, when they brush their teeth, the parents should be around. And then to make sure that or teach them to spill out the toothpaste and the foam produced during the brushing of the teeth. And so they will avoid really swallowing the whole thing and intake more arsenic or lead from the toothpaste. And actually, we advise the parents when they have the children, when the children have the first tooth develop, they should start teach the children to brush the teeth twice a day, early in the morning and before going to bed. And then you can use less toothpaste. You can use the common toothpaste, but use much less amount. For example, like for children aged 3 to 6, you just use a pea size portion is enough. So don't use too much toothpaste for children.
香港經濟報嘅問咧，喺今次嘅測試入邊咧，普通牙膏嘅樣本入邊咧就冇包到香港人常用嘅高露潔同埋Dali 嘅，咁想問下有冇特別原因嘅咧？
其實咧，我哋喺2014年嗰陣時咧，呢兩個品牌咧都已經測試咗嘅。咁我哋上一次咧就有4款係 Colgate 嘅啦。咁其實咧全部都係通過咗呢一個重金屬啦、pH 即係嗰個酸鹼值啦，同埋呢一個氟啊嘅測試。但係其中一款咧就有嗰個 triclosan 嗰個含量嘅。咁另外咧 Dali 咧就係全部都 pass 晒，就係冇驗出呢一個 triclosan。咁所以咧喺今次我哋揀選我哋嗰個樣本嗰陣時咧，因為其實喺市場上邊咧真係多咗，比起2014年嗰時多咗好多唔同嘅品牌，亦都係涵蓋咗有好多咧，又話叫天然啊嘅成分啦。咁所以咧，我哋希望咧就係盡量喺我哋嘅測試裏面咧涵蓋多啲以之前係未有測試過嘅樣本啦，同埋咧就係亦都係有一啲新嘅聲稱嘅樣本咧，可以提供咧就進一步嘅資訊咧，去俾嗰個消費者咧去參考嘅。
都係繼續係經濟報嘅問題啦。好多牙膏品牌商咧，佢哋就會採用一個買多啲嘅產品，然後就送好多嘅贈品嘅手法。咁想問下消委會咧，咁樣其實有冇限制到消費者嘅選擇咧？
一個商戶佢哋係用佢哋嘅方法去宣傳同埋推廣或者銷售佢哋嗰個嘅產品咧。就係佢哋嗰個可以話係佢哋自己自由嘅銷售手法嚟嘅。反而咧，我哋就要教育翻消費者啦。即係當你去望住呢一啲嘅優惠嗰陣時，要買咁多支牙膏，你係咪真係用得晒咧？因為你都要留意翻下佢嗰個嘅保質期同埋使用期限。咁我哋都曾經有收到投訴咧，就係消費者係被呢一啲嘅推廣吸引，但係點知咧佢以為通常嚟講牙膏都起碼有1年至到2、3年嘅一個保質期啦，點知咧原來佢收到嗰啲貨咧，因為佢嗰個係網購嚟嘅，收到嗰啲貨咧原來就係已經3個月到期啦。咁佢當然3個月冇可能係用到好多支牙膏啦，咁所以咧亦都係覺得喺嗰個資訊嗰方面嘅披露咧係唔清楚。咁所以咧就當消費者係面對呢一啲嗰個嘅宣傳推廣嗰陣時咧，都真係要保持嗰個理性去查證翻相關嘅資訊同埋自己嗰個嘅需要，先至好決定係會唔會接受呢一啲嘅優惠咯。咁而喺嗰個商戶嗰方面咧，我哋都係另外一個嘅建議啦，就係我哋好明白你係好想盡可能一個消費者去買多啲你嘅產品，咁但係咧都真係要留意翻下平均嗰個嘅使用啦，又或者係你自己嗰個保質期係乜嘢情況，咁然後先作出相關嗰個嘅銷售。
係咁最後一條關於牙膏嘅問題，咁一陣間我哋要翻轉頭有2條補充嘅問題係另外嗰啲 topic 嘅。咁我問翻呢牙膏呢個問題先，咁就想問下一般牙膏嘅保質期係有幾耐咧？咁如果過咗呢個保質期咧，有啲咩影響嘅咧？
一般牙膏嚟講咧，就大約係1年到3年到啦。咁但係當你一開咗之後，開封之後咧，好多時咧都話俾你聽咧，就係12個月到咧，就你一定要用晒㗎啦。咁所以咧就大家要留意翻呢一方面嗰個嘅保質期。咁但係咧就若果係真係用過期嘅牙膏會有啲咩情況咧？第一會唔會佢個酸鹼值會有所改變？第二咧就係可能會唔會有一個細菌係喺嗰個牙膏嗰度去出現咗，咁呢一啲咧都係可以話係對消費者嚟講咧係因為個過期嘅產品咧而引起嘅嗰個風險嘅。咁但係咧因為消費者好多時都唔知道係點樣，咁但係事實上個風險係存在咗啊嘛，咁所以咧如果係真係過咗期嘅產品咧，大家都真係要三思好唔好再用佢咯。
或者我補充少少，我哋今次測試嘅產品裏邊咧，有2款兒童牙膏咧，其實我哋驗出咗微生物㗎，只不過佢個菌落嘅數目咧係低於內地嘅標準嘅指標限制，咁所以咧就唔係一個大問題。咁但係如果過期嘅牙膏咧，或者你開咗之後好耐都未用完咧，會唔會增加呢啲微生物同埋有害細菌嘅風險咧？其實係會有機會。咁所以咧，而且我正話都講啦，因為嬰幼兒咧佢唔識啷口㗎嘛。可能真係牙膏同埋泡沫都食埋佢噶嘛，咁所以咧就可能有微生物滋生嘅問題，咁啊增加咗嬰幼兒嘅健康風險。咁所以即係話咧過期嘅牙膏咧，如果可以嘅話咧，就盡量就要小心注意。
好，跟住落嚟咧，我哋係有一條關於先買後付同埋一條關於寵物獸醫嗰個問題嘅，咁兩個都係用英文嘅。About the buy now pay later products, would Gilly please recap the accountability of BNPL function between virtual and physical banks?
There is a very clear guidelines from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority for banks, no matter it is virtual banks or the traditional banks, about promoting buy now pay later services. Under the guidelines, from all the promotional materials and also a campaign on buy now pay later, they have to be explicitly state that it is a lending product. And make sure that this is not for a loan perception to consumers. Secondly, it also has to disclose the related interest rate and also the fee involved. And in case you are talking about interest-free, claiming it is interest-free, you have to present the information on the same set of material about other charges, because there's no free lunch in this world. If there's no interest, there must be some other charges related. And also the education statement about whether you loaned or not, you have to make sure you can repay before you make the before borrowing. And also finally, the impact to consumers about their credit record in case of overdue payment should also be stated. So there are very clear guidelines from the Hong Kong MA to govern the virtual and also the traditional banks in launching their and also running their buy now pay later service, as compared with non-bank and unlicensed platforms. They are not required to do so. So the level of consumer protection to consumers would be extremely different. And that's why it is very important for consumers to fully understand the distinct difference between the two different types of buy now pay later product, to ensure that if you are interested in using it, you should look for something that can offer you better protection.
Okay, the last one about the vet clinic charges. Has the Consumer Council been in contact with relevant authorities regarding these complaint cases?
It is subject to the consent of the consumers whether they want us to refer the cases to the vet authority. So if it is agreed by the complainant, we will definitely refer the cases to the authorities. Probably one thing that we believe is very important to step up is about market surveillance, about the selling practice of the different vet clinic and also hospitals, given the fact that there are so many price disputes has happened, and also there are specific code of practice to guide them, to guide the behavior already. But from the content of all the different complaint cases, it seems like the compliance, there are discrepancy on these areas. So we believe, much closer market surveillance will be very important to regulate the hospitals and also the clinic more closely.
好，唔該晒兩位。咁今日嘅記者會咧就嚟到呢度結束啦，多謝各位。